This week's episode is brought to you by the team over at Dog and Gun Coffee. I am addicted to Dog and Gun Coffee. I absolutely love their beans. You've heard me say it 1,000 times over, probably already. I drink the Samba brew every single day. I honestly just can't get enough of it. It's so good. I often find myself probably having too many coffees. Probably haven't outdone Corey yet in regards to his caffeine consumption. That's Corey from Dog and Gun, but I definitely give him a run for his money. And you guys can witness not only their incredible coffee, but also their hog chocky, which is their hot chocolate that they offer, as well as their incredible apparel. And also their other coffee apparatuses that you can use to enjoy incredible coffee on the road. But the cool thing about Dog and Gun is that you do not need any fancy apparatuses to make it work when you're out hunting. All you need is a cup, because you can use their pre-loaded drip filters where you rip the top off of this little pouch, you put it on top of your cup, you pour the hot water over the coffee, and you have, voila, amazing coffee ready for consumption. So you can get yourself $10 off your next order at Dog and Gun Coffee when you use the code Bowhunter. That code is Bowhunter in caps locks, and it will get you $10 off your next order at Dog and Gun Coffee. This week's episode is brought to you by the legends over at Cayuga Broadheads. And Mr. Brad Smith himself, who you're about to hear from, he has been a big advocate for Cayuga Broadheads. He's been a part of the process of testing their products and making sure that they do the job that they are meant to do. He is a fan of the pilot cut himself. I mean, obviously he's a fan of all of the products and he's tested them all, but he keeps going back to the pilot cut because of the incredible work that broadhead in particular does do. And you guys can actually witness this for yourselves. When you use the code BAB10, you'll get 10% off your next order at Cayuga Broadheads. I really believe in trusting in your gear and knowing that it's going to get the job done. And I think these broadheads in general have been well tested by some of Australia's best hunters, maybe even some of the best hunters in the world. And so I would strongly recommend grabbing yourself some. You can do that with the code BAB10, and that will get you 10% off your next order at Cayuga Broadheads.
Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting.
Legend, what is up? Welcome back. You are in for a treat tonight. Mr. Brad Smith took us for a run. We covered pretty in depth about the Rusa deer. I learned a heck of a lot, that's for sure. There's so much about them that I did not know was true. He brought to light for me, which is really cool because it means that a lot of other people are going to have the same realizations. One of the biggest ones is just how far widespread their rut can actually be, which you will find out in a sec. I do have to put a little warning in about the 5-minute mark. It does cut out. We had about a 30-second lag before we got back in time, and there's a few more little spots where it does drop, but that's about the only segment that we really had issues with. That first 10 minutes, we had a bit of lagging. It's so funny. We had no issues for the 20 minutes or whatever it was before we started talking. Of course, we turned the recording on. It buggers up on us, and then it came back good. And so, yeah, you do have a heck of a good lot of uninterrupted audio as well. And just, a lot of really great insights. And Brad's kind of set us all up, I think, for a lot of success this year in regards to what's possible with the Rusa, what to look out for. We've gone through it, kind of broken it down in different stages, so almost like the pre-rut, during the rut, and post-rut a little bit. So you'll get a full understanding, the full rundown of everything you need to do for this year's Rusa rut, which I'm absolutely pumped for. I'm going on a little hunt, and I'm hoping that you guys get to go out and do the exact same thing. So here he is, Mr. Brad Smith. Alrighty, Bowhunters, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here with Mr. Brad Smith. Brad, welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us.
Mate, it's funny. You've been on the podcast before. You were on the Dog and Gun episode that we did. There was a group event at the Dog and Gun Day where we got to question you and Summers and Kev Schilf, and you guys put some absolute gold out there for that. And even that day, I asked you, mate, would you ever do a podcast? And you were kind of like, nah, I don't like to be in the limelight, like in the spotlight of it. Like I enjoy doing something like what we did today, but in the situation of sitting down and doing something like what we are doing today, it wasn't really of interest to you. So what did change?
I don't know if something's really changed. It was probably, I suppose, more on the spot. I can, if you ask me questions, I'm happy to talk bow hunting, I suppose, and if you're asking me questions about this, I'm happy to answer. Or if I can answer it, or if I know the answer, I'll give you the answer. But I'm not one to sit down and just talk about me. So I'd rather us talk about something that's bow hunting, or critters, or this and that. You know what I mean? So don't get me wrong. I'll talk bow hunting underwater. So you get me started.
Well, it's good because it's what we're here to do. So
yeah. So anyhow, we'll see how we go, mate. I know I'd probably get a bit excited, probably blend words together a little bit, talk a little bit quick at times. So
that's all right. I do the same thing. It's not a bad thing. I think it's funny because no one likes to hear their own voice or anything like that. But at the same time, I don't think it never matters. Like I'll stuff up. I reckon every single podcast episode I'll blur it or say something wrong or muck up my words, and I don't think anyone's ever pulled me up. So it's nice. People are forgiving usually. Mate, I wanted to delve deep into the Rusa deer. I've done a fair bit on the red deer. This year in particular, in the lead up to the fallow rut, we had Randy and Toby Hines come on, and the amount of help that provided for so many hunters was incredible. And since then, I've had multiple people reaching out being like, where is the Rusa content? And I've done a little bit, like especially with being Solaris and stuff. We've talked a bit about it previously. I'm going on a Rusa hunt myself this year, so it's kind of like all perfect timing to talk more about it. And I was like, well, who knows more about Rusa in general than yourself? So hence why I'm excited to have you here to kind of talk about them. One of the biggest questions that people have been asking me in general is when does the rut start? When's the Rusa rut?
It varies a little bit, but generally May they start. Depending on where you're at, I suppose. In Australia, Rusa are pretty well widespread from they're in WA, they're in South Australia. Mm-hmm. Southern New South Wales, all through the coast of New South Wales, in different pockets here and there, and then southeast Queensland, central Queensland, and up towards the Gulf as well. So, and
there's two species of Rusa?
Yeah, there's Moluccan and Javan, but you got the Moluccans are a smaller subspecies in it, if you call it that. But there's a set, up around Cairns and the Cape, you get Moluccans, but most of the other Rusa that we get to hunt throughout the other states is all Javan Rusa.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, go on. No,
you're right. And like I said, they both rut at the same times from my experience with them. And my experience is honestly, it's I've hunted a lot of Rusa. I haven't shot many, but I've seen a hell of a lot get shot. And I've hunted them mainly through central Queensland and a little bit in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. So I haven't hunted the coastal Rusa like through New South Wales. So there's probably a lot better blokes to ask about the Rusa in those areas. But, as far as hunting deer in different areas, certain animals or certain deer have got their characteristics, I suppose, and they're very similar, and you've just got to learn to adapt and hunt them, on their weaknesses or their strengths here and there. And it's very similar, just the country and the terrain varies from where you go in New South Wales to, say, central Queensland. So,
yeah, definitely.
But the peak rut's around July, but you will get some starting in May, and I've heard them, central Queensland, I've heard them roaring like it's in multiple stags roaring at the start of October again, the first week in October. So, and that's not just a one-off thing. I've heard that year after year. So
that's so bizarre. That's so widespread, right? Like May through to October.
Yeah.
Just lost Brad.
Give him one last crack on the way, and it was
there
real.
There we go. Sorry, we just lost you.
Yeah, you're right. Look, like I said, it's been terribly today.
That's all right. So
is that better again now?
Yeah, we're back on. So I was just saying, May through October, like that's a big spread.
Yeah, it is. But I don't know where I cut out. But I was saying the majority of them right at the same time around July. They'll start at the end of June, right through July into August. That's probably where you'll see the most action or hear the most stags. Mm-hmm. But realistically, you will hear the odd stags early May, and you will hear them as late as I've heard them very late. But October, first week in October, I've heard multiple stags going off first week in October, and that's fairly often I hear that year after year. Central Queensland, where there's a lot of deer, I normally hear there, and I think they're the ones. It might be those seasons where it's a bit poor. The does didn't have enough. They weren't cycling until late, or they didn't all get serviced, or it might be those young ones coming on and coming into season for the first time late. But that first week in October, I've heard that a fair bit up there in that country.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. That's crazy.
But yeah, majority. If you want to try and do something the best, like July is always hard to beat if it's chasing Rusa in the rut. Normally you will see or hear some action then.
Yeah, that's what I'm chasing this year, and I'm excited for it. Is it similar in regards to like length of day that sets the girls into estrus? Do you know?
Oh, mate, your guess is as good as mine, because when I've seen pretty good stags hanging around the hinds in May. I haven't seen them servicing the hinds, but they're definitely hanging with the hinds then. I know June and July, that's when I see them like service a hinds through those times into August. And I definitely know, and I've seen it that time in October as well, because it's definitely something happened to fire them stags up still. Yeah. And things to happen then as well, so. But it could be, like that's what they reckon hearing that with the fallow and that, is that daylight hours. It could be something similar to that, but it coincides with the moon phase, coincides with the, I suppose the amount of daylight in that day at that time of year. Yeah, there might be something. I'm just not sure what it is with those. I know with the fallow, it's around that. Everyone talks about the 100th day, So yeah, with Rusa, I'm not sure, mate. I'm probably not the best bloke to answer that, So
have you seen with the Rusa or reds or any other deer species, it drag out as long as the Rusa? The ruts?
Just mainly probably chital, like where I've hunted them up there in central Queensland again too. It's, I ran hunts in from January through to December, so their peak time. A lot of stags with a chital came on around that January, February, March, which is always pretty cool to hunt them. But I've heard them roaring and calling out every month of the year, and I've hunted them every month of the year. So yeah, it's just a lot more action. There's bigger mobs of deer that the deer congregate, or they just join in big mobs. It's like the fallow does. That come April, the places we hunt, we see a lot more does. They're a lot more vocal. There's a lot more happening in that second week of April. And where it comes to chital, that happens around that late January, February time. It's huge big mobs, and it's very, very hard to hunt them. It's exciting hunting, but it's hard to hunt them because there's so many eyes.
So many, yeah.
Yeah, and when we're talking Rusa, and this is what this is about now, like May, the time now is the first phase of the rut or leading into the. It's a pretty good time to hunt them too, because there's still, a lot of them stags are still bachelored up a bit. There's the odd ones that are split out, but most of them are still bachelor up at the moment. So, and when they're bachelored up like that, they're probably a little bit more patternable than if they're in the rut phase, because those a hind cycling here and there will take that stag from A to B to C to D. You know, you might see them in one area work in one area, and certain hinds there, and then if you pressure them too much, or something happens on the other side of the river, or the hinds, like you might get nothing. These hinds aren't cycling here, but you can smell hinds cycling 2 k's away. He might venture there. You know, you might think you've never really got them worked out. You might see them in a certain area day after day, and that's what you can go off. But I think when they're in their bachelor mobs before that rut, they're way more patternable than during the rut, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, it seems like it's very typical for the other species to kind of move to a new area when they're going to rut. Is that not necessarily the same for these guys?
Yeah, it is, because and like I said, I'm only going off a few places where I've hunted Rusa, and which is only 3 different areas, but you don't see stags in those places all year round. You see the hinds there pretty regularly, feeding in the same spots, and then the stags turn up as it gets closer to that rut time. You know what I mean? And they'll move closer. They'll start getting a little bit closer, but they'll be on the edges. You know, they might be 10 k's away, but they might be 3 or 4 k's away.
Yeah.
You know, they know what they're doing. They're just tucked away, getting in that, and they're feeding pretty heavily in April. You know, March, April, May. They've got their heads down, ass up. They're feeding, trying to get as much food into them before the rut hits, because then they've got something else in their mind, and feeding secondary. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So, like I said, it's just one of those things. But May is a good time as far as I'm concerned, because it's hard antler. If you're lucky enough to have those bachelor mobs on your property, well, you can run the glass over them, and you know they might have a little bit of velvet left on them, and they might be hard underneath if the points of their antlers or the points of their tines look like your little finger and don't look like your thumb. You know, they're pretty hard to the tips. So whatever you shoot, your antlers aren't going to rot, or you can preserve your antlers. But if they look like your thumbs, or they're pretty rounded on the ends, well, they're a little bit soft. You're going to lose some antler unless you use formaldehyde or some other chemical to try and preserve them. You know, because they've got blood in them, so they're going to rot.
Do you know?
You need something to do either. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know exactly what it does or what.
But do you know how soon you have to get the formaldehyde into it?
Yeah, pretty soon. Like I said, you can't leave it a day or 2.
Yeah,
if it's a little bit soft, and you haven't got formaldehyde, I think you can chuck them in the freezer, right? So you can chuck the whole antlers in the freezer, and then it's in your best interest to get and keep them on ice and keep them as cold as, and get them to a taxidermist that can help you preserve that velvet if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
If they are hard antler underneath and they've got tips on them, or they're just pointing through, you can either leave that velvet. If the blood's out of that velvet, you can leave it as is, or you can, if it's still got blood in it and the tips aren't through, you can peel that velvet off if you want. And then, but the antlers will be white as that. You'll need to stain them up, or they'll just look like they've been out in the sun for 6 months. But yeah, they've really good pearling on them, but they'll have no polished tips. They'll no colour. There's no real character to them if you strip the velvet off.
Will they have the divots and stuff, or will it just be smooth?
No, they'll be pearling. All that pearling is actual the divots you're talking about.
Yeah, that's pearling. Okay.
Yeah, right. So they'll smooth themselves out when they start rubbing on different trees. You know what I mean? And Rusa don't rub on the hardest of trees compared to chital. Like I was fortunate enough to have both on the same property I hunted, and chital will pick the biggest hardwood tree and rub their antlers on, and I reckon it splays their antlers out. I reckon it must have felt good to their skull, you know what I mean? Yeah. They got real springy antlers, where a Rusa in that area, they rubbed on smaller trees and a softer bark on the trees. Yeah, but that's just different characteristics, different deer, And the Rusa, they grass it. The chital will grass up, but the Rusa love grassing up and twisting that grass up and keeping the grass in their antlers. You know,
it's such a funny characteristic to have.
Yeah, they're two totally different deer. They're just, yeah. I think the Rusa do it. They're an arrogant sort of deer, and like that, they like showcasing themselves a bit. So it's either to make them look more impressive or more threatening. You know, I'm not sure which way it is, but they grass up, and that's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah.
Is it typical that like all of the males will try to grass up and you just see them kind of all walking around with this big old afro, or is it just the bigger, more arrogant ones, or the alphas?
They all do it. They all do it, mate. Doesn't matter if they're first, second headers, they're doing it. They just, you know, and you see them with all sorts of things in their antlers, from baling twine to plastic bags to, when I say plastic, places where we hunted it in a few different places, they've been like cultivation paddocks.
Yeah.
Cultivation paddocks where they've had like black plastic and stuff like that.
Oh,
you'll see all different shit in their antlers, you know.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And it's one way of I tell you, around waterholes, like we got a lot of pigs in that area too, but and trying to determine what's a pig wallow and a Rusa wallow, what's doing whatever. If the amount of grass laying around the edge of those dams or those puddles or whatever, soon let you know if it's Rusa or pigs. You know what I mean? So yeah. Apart from the mud hide on the trees as well, but it's a short telltale sign that grass and leaves around those edges of that waterholes has been stags drinking there. So
yeah. Benny, you kind of related to them as being the pig species of the deer, like very waterbound, and they just seem to be very similar to pigs.
Yeah, they're like a hog with antlers as far as I'm concerned. Just the mud on their bodies, how it cakes up on them, how solid they are. You know, it's not, and honestly, the two deer species out there we talk about it, like the Rusa, they look and they smell like they've come off a 3-day bender when you shoot them. Like they are pretty rank. You know, they're on the nose, and a chital stag, he could be in the middle of the rut, but he always looks like he's dressed up, ready to go out for the night. You know. Yeah.
It's little pretty boy.
Yeah, not a hair out of place. Yeah, just a pretty boy.
Yeah.
But in saying that too, I think the chital deer is probably one of the toughest deer species I've not to hunt, but what they can take.
Oh, gotcha.
Shot wise, like to me, I don't think I've hunted a tougher animal than a chital stag. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just passed down. No, it doesn't really make sense because they're all hunted where they originally come from. So
yeah, tiger food, mate. They are. That's
exactly.
What they are, you know. So,
but the Rusa as well originally.
Yeah, well, they would be all through that Indonesia and stuff there. Like you got those tigers that, you know, spread down towards Borneo and all that sort of stuff too. So they'd be on. They'd get hunted too a bit, I dare say. But it's one of those things. I think that the shape of the chital's antlers and how pointy they are on the end, you know, what they put up with. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They got a totally different coat of hair on them to a Rusa too. That Rusa hair is brittle like a pig's.
It's real thick, strawy type of stuff, right?
Yeah, and then the thickness of the skin on the Rusa neck is second to none. I've never caped anything that's got an inch thick hide on the neck like a Rusa. Like it's hard to get it. You can have the sharpest knife, and it's an effort to get through there. You nearly got to use like the knives we use at work. Sometimes are just with the changeable blades on it. It's like them,
big Stanleys and stuff.
Yeah, Stanley knives. Yeah, that's we hunted them in I hunted them in New Caledonia back in the 90s, and they were the first deer species I really hunted, and the guides over there, they used Stanley knives to actually cape them. I thought, fuck, don't you know how to sharpen a knife now? And all these years later, caping out like heaps, like dozens or hundreds of Rusa, I understand why they're using them, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, is that because when they fight, they knock around the neck or something?
Yeah, it is. Well, the necks, they just get scarred up. Like they just the damage on a Rusa's neck, and what you see, they just end up with like just leather necks. Like there's hardly hair left on them, you know. And
wow.
There's scars all over them, but there's not big gouges or not. There is just big scrapes and scars, but it's not. Their antlers don't seem to penetrate. They get bruised up like unbelievable, but I see a lot more holes in the membranes or the meat membranes of chital and fallow and reds than what I ever have of Rusa. And I know, and it has to be to do with the hides on the neck, you know, how thick it is. And it's a lot looser. On their neck is way looser. Like a red's have got a big shaggy coat, and I think that adds as protection for them. But the Rusas, like their neck is like, it's not a tight neck. It's pretty loose skin. So I think so it can take a bit of like a Shar-Pei dog, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a bit of movement in it, you know.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
They're pretty aggressive, aren't they, in general? The Rusa?
Yeah. Well, aggressive to each other.
Yes.
Aggressive. Yeah, well, they're not territorial, but they will blue. Like they battle hard, yeah. And they spin quick. Like I see the other deer fight. If a Rusa gets turned around, he is not he's trying to get his antlers and head back in the road as quick as he can, because like that's when I think he's susceptible to copping an antler in the back of the ribs or in the flank, and they might do some damage that way. The skin's nowhere near as thick there, you know, or in his arse end, you know, that an antler can do a lot more damage down that arse end than what it can do with their head-to-head. So I've seen a lot of other stags battle and fight, like a lot more fallow. Fallow are probably the most aggressive deer species, you know, that they're looking for a blue, you know what I mean? But I've never seen deer spin on a dime like as quick as what Rusa do, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's not in any deer's best interest to turn their back on another deer, but
just to see
Rusa,
the way they react.
Yeah.
And so you just said before they're not territorial.
Oh, when I say, well, they don't use scrapes. They don't have this and that. Like that, they might think they own those hinds and that in an aerial, and other stags coming through. Yeah, they'll blue and carry on. Don't get me wrong, but they're not. If they don't hold an aerial, they don't hold a leck or a scrape like a fallow does.
Yeah, okay.
And they don't. You know, chital use scrapes and sambo use scrapes as well, but I don't think that's not their domain. If you know what I mean, it's
definitely
They'll have their rub lines. They'll hold out in certain areas. Like I see, don't get me wrong, I see the same stags in the same areas year after year. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's I've been fortunate enough to watch a few of them grow. And it's funny, and to the day I've seen a few stags turn up. I wonder if I'm going to see him this year. Has he made it through? Has he got shot? I haven't seen him. Hasn't turned up any of the game cameras. And all of a sudden, boom, there they are again. Like it's nearly like to the day. So it could have something to do with the daylight hours and whatever.
Yeah.
With that's how do they know? How do they know to turn up there? How do they know to start making their way there? There's obviously something that triggers them.
Definitely.
It's the same with fish spawning and all that sort of thing. It's one of the nature's way of making, you know, I suppose things happen and things reproduce, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got to have they've got to have some mechanism in them that triggers them to do this and that, you know. So but I've seen reds do the same thing too. You know, fallow bucks turn. Yeah, people think, fuck, I haven't seen any big fallow bucks this year. I heard it all the way up until the second weekend of April, and then it happens every year. Everyone starts panicking, thinking, oh, they've got shot this and that. But it's, you know, it happens. They turn up. You just got to. Every year's a bit different. No 2 years are ever the same. And you know what you dealt with this year. That's what you dealt with. You just deal with it and get on with it. Don't start sooking about it and start stressing out too much about it. Like you just got to put the time in and. You know, hopefully, if you put enough time in, you look in the right areas, you know, shit might go your way.
Exactly. And I mean, there's always next year, right? I mean, that was something that took me a while to appreciate or learn and know it was coming again. Like, I always was so rushed to get the job done. And even now, that's my biggest fault in hunting and bow hunting. And it will teach you a lot of patience, right? But my biggest fault to date has always been just rushing the process too much. But then in regards to more so knowing that there's going to be another trip, like this is something that I know is going to be within my life for forever now. Like I'm obsessed. I'm always going to be. So it's not like it's the last rut I'll ever get to have.
Yeah. Well, once you get to know it a bit, like the rut doesn't have to stop. Like that's I chase it. Like I chase the chital early in the year, and then I'm back down chasing the fallow, and I'm chasing the first stage of that fallow rut when they start moving in, because I reckon they taste better and they eat better through that mid-March. There's a lot of meat on a fallow buck, and it's some of the best eaten meat or best eaten fallow at that stage, I reckon, up till mid-March, you know what I mean? And then
Definitely, yeah.
Then I hunt the reds towards the end of March, leading into the start of April, because I like hunting them, and I love hunting reds through the rut. I just, fuck, it doesn't get any better as far as I'm concerned. And then once they finish, I'm back on the fallow because they're really coming into full swing. And when I'm saying when it finishes, reds, look, it just doesn't finish. Like they're still there.
Yeah.
You can hunt it earlier and a bit later. The rut's only, and it's probably not it's the most active time and it's a fun time to hunt them, but it's probably, in some deer species, it probably mightn't be the best time to hunt them, if that makes sense. Like there's probably easier times to hunt them after or before.
Yeah.
But it's just the noises that come out of them.
Yeah.
It is. And it's like we can interact with them a little bit more because we think we can. That's the time of year to call them in. In natural fact, you could probably call them in all year round if you know the right noises to make,
Yeah, so, if you knew the right girl noises to make, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things. It's like, so then you hunt the fallow, that's end of April, and then I'm virtually, as soon as that's done, or the end of April's coming, I'm pushing my way further north, so I'm hunting chital again, and then I'm checking over, keeping an eye on the Rusa moving in, so it's sort of, the Rusa starting to move in May, on the blocks that I used to hunt, and then come June, I've sort of got hunters, we were targeting a Rusa there, and July is normally just flat out. August, and then September comes around, and if I'm either looking at wishing I was over hunting elk in the States again, or if going with one of my mates to hunt them, or vice versa. So that happens, and then you come back and from doing that, and then it's like you've got other things. You chital there's always something going on with the chital. So I'm always back in there, or I'm up north then, and you've got you're hunting boars up north, and then as the storms come on and it dries up north, but the storms start moving and the build up to the wet, a lot of sows start cycling. Fucking try and get that out. A lot of sows start cycling, and then you got boars rutting, and it's a pretty cool experience as well,
Definitely.
And that's not, and then you got the boars rutting at home in the hills as soon as it starts cooling down at the end of April, May, June. It's always a pretty cool time to be in the bush hunting boars, because there's sow cycling again, and I think that's to do with sows are 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, their gestation period. So if you think about it, and
you say that's how long their gestation is? 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days.
3 weeks, 3 days.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So that's a season, you may as well say.
Yeah.
So by the time if they start reproducing at the start of winter, by the time end of winter comes around and spring comes around, they've got babies on the ground. So by the time spring comes around, hopefully you've got a bit of green pick. There's a little bit more food around. They're not having piglets in the midst of winter when things could be real harsh, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you got the same thing up north once the dry season. You don't see too many sows with real young slips in them through the middle of the dry season, unless there's a lot of food about. And then if they start reproducing, get a build up, you've got over summer, you've got all that wet season, the grass grows. By the time the wet season's finished, they spat out a litter of piglets again. They've got a mile of food. It probably gives them the best chance to
survive,
to retain a number of young.
Yeah, definitely.
And they can reproduce a number of times a year, as we know, with pigs. But anyway, we got off the track there.
That's all right. I don't think anyone's going to mind too much. They'll enjoy all the content.
So like I said, it's just that to me the rut doesn't really. If you're keen, it doesn't really finish. You go chasing other ruts here and there, and a bit of action here and there.
I mean, I've always found realistically every time. The best way to say it probably is that deer are patternable, and so going back at the same time in different months, you're probably going to see the same stuff happening, right? And so if you go back and chase the reds in October, you're going to see something very different to what you see in the rut, obviously, but it's probably going to be very similar to what you've seen in the October before. Like the biggest stag I've ever seen on my block was in an October. It was when I was in hunting in October. So I actually go back quite regularly in October if I can, just to try find him again.
Yeah, just keep an eye on him if you ever shoot him in October, because he might have his antlers on his head by the time he hits the deck after you put an arrow through him.
Maybe it might have been. When do they drop their? Oh, they got you. That is when they're dropping.
No,
Hey, yeah.
No, it's September, October. They'll drop them. So
yeah,
it depends on the age of that deer. So yeah, but that's what you've got to do. You've just got to, and what you're doing, saying there, the chances are that's where they go. They batch it up. That's where you find cast antlers here and there. A lot of people find cast antlers on their blocks, like my fallow block. I don't find no cast antlers there.
Yeah,
I see a lot of bucks there during the rut, but they're not growing out there. And the Rusa, we used to find a heap of casties in certain areas, but mainly where those bachelor mobs were. You'd find the odd ones out in the middle of the paddocks where a lot of the hinds are, but most of the time they're in the back blocks or up in the river in certain sections where you see a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the main questions I got a lot from just people sending in questions was, can you call them in? Can you call the rooster stags to come straight to you?
Yeah. It's the same as any animal. You can, if you know what to say or what they want to hear, you can call out just about any animal on the planet in, I reckon. But Rusa, you can roar them in. We hind call a fair bit in. When I say hind call, we use the mouth. They sound, their tones and pitches are very similar to elk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use the elk mouth reeds, like a cow reeds. Like you can use a hoochie mamas, which is a handheld one.
Yep.
You can use other mouth callers that you use over there, but I'd rather just use a mouth reed because I can tuck it away in my mouth and I can still shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I can still talk and I can still film and I can still operate a caller without using my hands or having stop and think I've just got it in my mouth, and it just takes a little bit to get used to it. And if I have a lot of people ask about which ones to buy. Well, you need to buy probably 3 or 4 different styles of mouth reeds because they're all a little bit different, and everyone's palate or the top of your mouth is shaped a little bit different to each other. So
yeah.
You just need you buy ones like for cow, like mouth reeds for elk, and then you learn how to blow them. And most do videos, or they used to do videos back in the day, be all on YouTube now, with showing you how to call.
Yep.
And I dare say most of the other game callers over there, like Phelps game calls, we use a lot of their mouth reeds as well. And we use them for chital as well. So it's not just Rusa. You can muck around and you'll get a higher pitch and a softer call once you muck around with it a lot, you get used to it. Like I for 2 months straight before the first time I ever went over seas chasing elk, I had primos when I was editing a lot of videos. I had primos on the TV next to me all day long, and I could hear elk going off. And I bought a heap of different mouth reeds, and I just sat there and practice until. And it didn't take too much, and then once you get it out, you get it out, So
definitely. I actually, I found a video, and I'll share my screen so you can actually hear it too. There is a bit of music behind it. It's from the Doomsday Boys, the Twin Element stuff. So it's of a Rusa stag, but in the start of it, like I've already got it to the right point. You'll hear the hind calls straight away, and then eventually he gives a little roar as well. So I'll play that. And it's probably about 30 seconds worth. Actually, give me 2 seconds, Brad. I forgot to share my sound so you could hear it.
Yeah. Right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, I'm not hearing no noise. Yeah. Oh no, I was there when he was videoing that.
You were there?
Yeah, it would have been my hind call.
That was you. Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah, so there was a few little, the listeners would have got it, but it's just it's almost like a little monkey, like, ooh, type of sound, in a sense. Like what you said, more like the elk cow calls. Then the stag call is it's almost like the guttural roar that a red would do, like the deeper sound of it.
Yeah, like a red, but instead of coming from the deep, they just run out, they peter out, run out of breath. Like the Rusa, their roar peters out into nothing. They'll keep the head up there, and they roar out, and then it's at the end of it, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
just to nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the start of it, it can be loud. Their roars aren't nowhere near as guttural and as loud as Red's, but they all sound a little bit different, but they all seem to peter out at the end. You know.
And so, in regards to like something that was groundbreaking to me this year, I don't know why I'd never thought of it before or hadn't actually come across it in regards to the content, talking to Kev or talking to anyone about Reds, or the content that I've watched in general, was using more fawn calls. Is that something similar within the Rusa?
Yeah, they definitely. We've called numerous. You don't necessarily call the stag, and like a lot of times, if you get a stag hanging around with an in-season hind, you're not going to drag him away. But if you use the right call, her motherly instinct will take over. And like if you call it like a lost calf or a lost yearling call, like we call a calf call because it's a fawn call or whatever. But if you use the right one, you'll drag her in, which will bring him in. All right, and I've used that with both chital and Rusa. You know, to some, it's all of a sudden you've turned something from an 80-yard gap into 30 yards sort of, and it's not, you haven't been calling him, you're calling her. But sometimes you will call. Don't get me wrong, you make the right noises, and you'll get the right stag come into that as well. So.
It seems like a lot of the content that's out there for Rusa, it seems like it's mostly spot and stalk.
Yeah, it just depends on the content. Like there's not, compared to fallow and reds and elk and all that sort of stuff,
There's not much out there.
There's not a mile out there, you know. And it's when you've got a lot of deer to contend with, it's hard. You're trying to hind call and there's 70 other hinds out there in different places. They're hearing it all day. Like Rusa hinds are very vocal. Like the closer to the rut they are super vocal.
Yeah, wow.
And it's you know, they're
just
hearing all the
talking
time,
to each other or talking to
they're talking to each other. It's just because it's chaos amongst them. It's like they're talking to the young, and but everything's going on, and it's the same with every deer species. You don't get me wrong. Throughout the year, you'll hear the hinds or you hear the does calling and talking to the young. But come the rut, whether it's elk, red hinds, fallow does, they are just super vocal because it's you know, there's a lot of shit happening. There's deer getting chased everywhere. They're feeling different things. Different hormones are going through them, and the young ones are probably not sure what's going on, and the mum's trying to keep tabs on them and reproduce with the bucks or the stags as well. So there's a lot of shit going on at that time of year. So they're way more vocal. But we pick up on a lot of stags that they go off. Them Rusa stags go off by themselves, or they might go to a wall and they start walking away roaring. If he's by himself and we're in a good position, and whoever I'm with likes that stag, if we've got enough cover, I'll be hind calling. Don't get me wrong. I'll try and drag him straight to us. So if we get out to one of my favourite ways to shoot Rusa is to watch them bed down, and then try, because they bed down a couple of times in the morning. If you can get on them early, and this is when you find you get your bachelor mobs just leading into the rut, like now. Is if you watch them feed, and I had no option up there, but in some of this country it's pretty open where I hunted, but I'd watch them feed, and then they'd bed down, and there might be 3 or 4 of them, or there might be 5 or 6 of them, but I'd watch them bed down, and I knew I had about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to get in there before he got back up again, and he might only move 20 yards and bed down, or he might move fucking 500 yards and bed down, you know. Yeah. But if you can get in there in that certain time and that, without anything spooking in anything else, and that was the hardest thing, getting in there without something else seeing you in that open country, and stayed low in that grass. You're in with to me that was one of the most
effective,
successful way or best ways to do, or effective ways of doing it. Like the problem is if it wasn't the first time, it was the second time you bedded down. Yeah, and it was in that open country, and you get in close to him. You might be laying out there in the sun, or in that open for the next 4 hours waiting for him to stand up.
Yeah, wow.
All right, so it's sort of like that first time to me was, if I could make it happen then, I was going to make it happen then. Because it's don't get me wrong, if it's a good stag, the 4 hours you'll do it. But at certain times of the year up there, especially if those mosquitoes in that long grass are active. It's just 4 hours is a long time to sit.
Yeah.
It is. It's hell. It's like, it's not, there's nothing pleasant about it.
No.
But, but the anticipation of, you're watching them bed down and trying to watch what angle they bed down. So you've got half an idea of what they're going to be like when they stand up. The other thing you dealt with, if you're glassing those flats and you see set antlers in the grass, well, you think, righto, we can make a stalk. There's a bush or a clump of trees. This is where the rangefinder really comes in handy in that flat country, because you can try and get a range on him, and then you range the closest tree, bush, whatever, where the wind allows you to hopefully make a stalk, and then you find something. Or I used to like finding something within 30. If the wind's good and you can rely on the wind a little bit in that open country, I like to get within 30 and just get there and wait. And then it was a matter of waiting for them to stand up. And the hardest thing was, if you only seen antlers, you didn't know which way he's facing. You had an idea.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, you were wrong. When he stood up, it was nothing like what you thought.
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of, don't draw back as soon as he stands up. It was, he'll stand up and he'll stretch, or he'll put his head down to scratch, and then that's the time. If the angle's right when you draw back,
So because they're probably a bit more aware when they're first hopping up, it's almost like a time to look around and see if anything's looking at them.
Yeah, you stand there like a sore thumb. Like honestly, if you're any higher than the grass in that flat country, they'll see a shine of your hat, your camo of your back, or your bow limb or something. There's, depending if the sun's behind you, or it could be in your face, where you're going to stand out more if it's in your face. And then if it's over your shoulder, you think you're right, but then you're on everything on your side between you and him is dark because it's in the shadow.
Yeah, yeah.
And you get a sunshine on your back, or on, like I said, your cap or whatever. You're better off staying in the grass or behind something, and only partially if you're going to look at him, don't have your whole head sticking out, just enough to see what to see. Even if you're looking through the grass at his body and working out, wait till he puts his head down, and then be on your knees or sit up on your ass. And if the angle's right, that's your time to get it done.
So what about in the circumstance, not when you stalked into like 30, when you stalked in and they're in the long grass like that, and it's just you in the long grass and you're waiting for them to stand up. If you hear them starting to move and you know that they're about to hop up, would you still wait until they've completely hopped up and then gone back down before, like with the head, where they duck back down and scratch the ground or something like that?
Yeah, I would, because you don't know what angle. If you draw back, I can tell you now, if you draw back, it's like people saying, as soon as you hear something, come and draw back, or
Could be there for a while.
That's fine, but if something pulls up and it's wrong and it's quartering onto you, or there's shit in the road, or it stops at 30 out and it's quartering on, I can tell you now, if you try to shoot that thing at 30 yards quartering on, you're not going to hit it. Especially if it's looking at alert, you're not going to hit it where you want to. And then, some of these animals, if you're drawn back, like, I don't know, like, if I'm drawn back for a minute and a half, I know all about it. I'm in a world of hurt.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it was last year, I was drawn back on a red stag for a minute 40 or something, and I couldn't feel my left arm, and I was thinking, because he came in behind the last bush, and then he only had to just keep walking, mate, take another 2 steps, and it was over. And then he stopped, and I drew back, and he stopped, because he stopped and raked the ground, and that was fine. And then I sort of drew back, and he came out, and then he just stopped straight behind the bush. His head and his neck were there, but I could not see. And it was a minute 40 on video.
Yeah,
and in the end, I ended up letting down because I couldn't feel my left arm no more.
Yeah, wow.
And then I knew he got on a little bit of movement through that, and then it was a stare off for 20 seconds, and then the inevitable happened. The wind changed, and I thought, it's now or never. I'll just slowly start to draw back. But even before I moved, I reckon he had winded me, turned and bolted.
Yeah,
it would have been probably the best red stag I've shot. It was a pretty cool experience. Like, still nonetheless, it was like he was under 20. Everything was there. Heart was racing.
Definitely.
But it was just, anticipation of it to happen. And it was like, you do that at 30 and something's in the open and something's looking at you, you got no chance of letting down.
No.
without getting busted. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of them circumstances. You either damned if you do, damned if you don't. You've got to put yourself in a position where if you are calling something in, you need time so you can see them. You don't want them just coming over the rise at 20 or 30 yards because, one, you might know what they are. Two, they're probably going to be front onto you anyway. But if you can see them coming in from a distance, it's a different story. You know when you need to draw back. But it's the same, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about animals that are bedding, raising up, and unless you've seen them lay down and you know what angle they're at, if you're just seeing a set of antlers and you've got into that range, then yeah, you can risk it and draw back, but you're in the open. As soon as he stands up, you're going to be above grass level. You're going to be the odd thing out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does.
But if you're if you can imagine being in grass that's 2 foot high, or say 600 mil high, you've got to be on your back, on your ass. Even if you crunch down on your knees, your back is still going to be showing above that grass, and your head's going to be above it, because by the time you got your eyes up above that grass to look, the top of your head and your hat's higher than that, so it's above the grass anyway. So I reckon you're better off being in the grass, looking through the grass at them, let them stand up. Then they'll scratch or they'll turn, they'll do something. They might just walk off. They mightn't even do anything, but they might be able to go behind something, and that enables you to get up to draw, because they walk behind something that might shield their face from you, so you can get to draw. If they're scratching their ribs on the other side of them and they're at the right angle, well, you can draw. If they're scratching down at their feet and their head's down below the grass level, well, you can still draw if they're at the right angle, you know. You've got the option then. But if you're drawn back, you could be shot and you expose yourself in that open country. In timbered country, you might be right. You might have enough cover in front of you, or you might be able to have a tree in front of you where you can, he's not the right angle, I'm just going to lean back and behind this tree, ease down so he can't see me. Then you can lean out and wait, you know. But I'm only talking about that open country. I think you're better off letting them stand if you don't know their angle, and go from there.
And how close?
How close? What?
Well, how close do you recommend that the hunters get when they're in the long grass like that? Like, obviously, grass can be pretty noisy if you go if you move too much at all.
Yeah, it's a hard one, mate, because it's like I like being close. That's to me what it's all about. But I can see the point in some blokes being back, 30 and 40 because of the conditions. If the wind's terrible and it's too chopping and changing, there's no use being 30 yards because they're going to smell you. Yeah. Sooner or later, you're better off watching them from 100 or 200 yards until that wind picks up in
consistent,
gets a little bit more consistent, and then get in there, So it's sort of, you've got to take every scenario is a little bit different, and you've got to weigh in all those different factors and what you should be doing, whether or not you should be waiting, whether or not you should be going, and that all comes with experience. You're not always going to get it right. Like, there's going to be times when you got to think about how long have I got here? Have I got another 3 days on this fella? Have I got how big's a block I'm on too? Like, if I'm on a small block, if I go in there and push him now and push him onto the neighbours, is he going to come back because he knows I'm here? Is it what stage of the hunt is it? Is it the first day of the hunt, first morning? Is it? It's a bit different where I was. Like, I had unlimited country there. I was hunting them where the neighbours wasn't anywhere near me. But the thing was, if I put too much pressure on them deer there, like, I'd only get 1 or 2 chances. If I pressured them stags, especially them bachelor mobs, twice in the one day, and they got to look at us twice, I couldn't come back and find them the next day because they know something's up,
Yeah.
But if you push them once that day, that they're used to workers bumping them, people, they're used to me walking around. They'd see the arse into me heap of times because I'd fucking think, nothing I can do here, and I'm not going to be stuck in this area here for 4 hours. I'm just going to get up and walk. So I'll walk directly away from them. They'll see me. I'll keep an eye on them over my shoulder there a little bit, and they'll either move off and bed back down, or they won't run off because I wasn't going towards them. I didn't pose as a threat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you do, and even like this is with Rusa right there, if we pressured them too much a couple of days in a row, I wouldn't find them in that area the next day. They had to start again. Especially if it was something I wanted to hunt,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's go back to May
in regards to we're recording this on Thursday night. It's going to drop on Saturday, so it's pretty much what date are we even at? It's the 9th of May, so this will come out the 11th of May. So in regards to if you've got access now and you're going out and you're chasing in May, what are you trying to look for in regards to what are you trying to pattern? What are you trying to find within the Rusa deer?
No, I'd be looking for those stags, and it'd be just you're trying to find those. There'll be some stags with the hinds at the moment. If you're seeing hinds, just hang off them a bit and run glass over them everywhere. They'll soon let you know. They'll keep looking in one area, and you'll know there's either another deer there, there's something there worrying them, whether it's a stag just off in the distance, or you'd be looking for those bachelor mobs of stags in there. They probably won't be in their big mobs now. They might be starting to break up in their 2s, 3s, and 4s, you know. Well, when I say 2s and 3s, it's normally, 2s, 3s, 4s, up to 6 deer. And if you can find those and there's something there that, you know, raises your eyebrows, well, that's where you need to be. There'll be a few rubs about, but they should only be just starting to rub out, you know, now. Like through now, you know.
In those mobs right now, are they just feeding up? Is that kind of the main thing they're doing right now? If it's not,
Yep. And they will be in those, as long as they're not getting pressured, they will still be in those areas, you know. It depends on how big your blocks are, where you're at. If those animals are getting pressured, you know, or there's a chance the weekend's coming, well, more people are out and about, so that could move them. So you sort of got to be prepared to, this is where it comes in. Do I make a play, don't I? Well, if you don't make a play, if the conditions are right and you think you can kill him, make a play. If there's something in the back of your head, think, the wind's shitty, like it's only blown consistent for a couple of minutes. Well, you're never going to get in there without it. You haven't got the time.
Yeah,
you're going to blow them, all right? Or you're better off sit back, watch them for a bit and learn. You're going to learn if you don't walk away from them. Like just watch them from a distance. You might find a few things. That's it. Or you know, after a couple of days, you might think, "Fuck, that's the second time that they've got up and left past that spot there. I reckon I've got more chance of killing him there because it's more cover." Or there might be something you might find after watching them for a while that they're doing something that, puts them in a more huntable position, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
But don't get me wrong, like if it's the first arvo out there and they're laying there and you're thinking, fuck, there's a tree there or there's a good bush there, the wind's great.
Take it. Go for it.
Yeah. Like just don't let an opportunity go by especially if he ticks the boxes, you know.
Definitely.
If there's what I'm saying is if there's something in your head and you're a bit undecisive, is he big enough? Is he this? Is he that? If you're doing that, he's not big enough. He's not. If he hasn't raised your eyebrows and dropped your fucking bottom jaw, and you're thinking, that's you know, when you see something, you know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because everyone's at different stages. So when I say different stages, everyone's got an idea in their head
goals.
What they want to shoot.
100%. Yeah.
And it's not what appeals to one person mightn't appeal to the next. But I've had blokes with me, and I'll say, listen, he's only 4.5. Look, he's got a lot more ground. Oh, mate, but that's exactly what I want in a Rusa. I think, well, righto. If you want to have a go, that's fine. I'm just making you aware there's bigger stags here or older stags here if you want to wait. And then blokes that they can't help themselves, that's what they want to do. So, but that to me and they're happy when they shoot it. So
yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, they're happy. So that's
all
good.
That matters. Yeah.
You know, I'm just there to either just say, well, listen, I think we can find something a bit better, or they're umming and up. They're asking me, is he 30, Smithy, or is he mid-30s? I'm thinking, is there something there that's not appealing to you? Like they're asking me a question for me to give them the answer. He's big enough or he's not big enough. I'm saying, well, I'll tell him what I think he is. But if they're not thinking, fuck, that's what I want to shoot. Like I can tell straight away if they're a little bit undecisive that we need to be looking for something else. You know.
Definitely. What is a good score for a Rusa stag? Like you're saying 30 or mid-30s, is that kind of like pretty reputable?
Yeah, well, like it's funny. Like back in the 90s, like a lot of Rusa, any Rusa around the, 32, 33 inches was considered a pretty good Rusa stag. You know what I mean? And then now it's all high 30s. You know what I mean? Like you're pushing the 40-inch mark is a holy grail really of a Rusa stag. If you can get something that's 40 inches in length, I'm just looking. I look for something that's a bit unique or it's got a bit of age. I just like shooting older critters that have been around a bit that, they're the ones they're a little bit more cagey and they take a little bit more. They got a little bit more character to them. Yeah, they might not have the biggest antlers anymore. They've got more scars on them and beaten up and that. But that's what makes me tick in that. Whereas others might be looking for just something that's nice, even symmetry. You know. So
yeah.
But anyway, to me, 36 is a pretty good. Like that's a good Rusa stag. You know, and 33 to 34, 35 can be still a really good Rusa stag if he's got weight and that there. It's just I'm looking for an age thing. That's what I'm looking for, not and scores to me mean
Diddley.
Yeah, Diddley. I'd rather as long as it was a good hunt and it's what you wanted. Be happy with that, you know.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the great thing about an old stag in particular is that you know that he's gone and he's
reproduced.
Exactly, spread his oats. He's done plenty of reproducing, which is great. So then you know that he's on the back end of that side. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a good. You know, the gene pools out there like that's. I probably haven't shot a lot of big stuff. I've shot a lot of shit, and I've shot a lot of does and hinds. Mm-hmm. So I'm sort of on the other end of the scale. I take out. We shoot a lot of gear for meat, and you know, I'm happy to see something that's got fucked up antlers or that shouldn't be there. To me, that's like it's a gold or green light saying, "Oh, here we go. I've got a chance to shoot something." Whereas on that block up there with those deer, I always had trouble shooting something good because I thought that's what I need here. I need that here.
Yeah, exactly.
I want that gene pool here, and it's the same as where I hunt fallow and reds now. It's like if I see something good, I'm happy to have it there. I don't have to shoot it. If it's old and it's nearly past his years by date, and I've got to be careful here because that's nearly me talking about myself, sort of thing. Like, he should be taken out, like, you know what I mean. So it's one of those things. Like,
yeah,
they get past that stage where it's like they're past their prime, so they're no longer holding the girls. They're not, you know, not reproducing as much as what they were. But in saying that, too, you know, I knocked out over a fellow this year that he was sort of king of the hill, and we said we thought we we're going to let him be. Or I talked to Mick, and I thought there's a big black, like a chocolate buck there that had a split palm on one side, and he had a real good ant on the other side, like long. And I thought, has he got that same trait in that right antler, like so many deer over here? Is he going to pass that on? And I thought I'd rather take him out, and this heavy, like lighter colour buck, I thought I'd rather him breed before them girls, you know. Mm. And then I think it was 2 days later, I had that same white buck come cruising past me. I had an arrow and a string weight. I was trying to shoot a couple of days for meat and video some other bucks in the area. And he come cruising past less than 20, and he was on a mission to go up the hill. And I thought, he is way heavier and older than I thought, you know.
Yeah.
Because I've just seen him in the flesh right there. And then I videoed in that arvo, went back and showed Nick. I said, listen, if we get a chance to shoot this, I think we need to shoot this fella because I don't think he's going to get any better than I think he's on the
right
stages
now.
are going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and he was 7.5, he was. So 7.5 or 8.5, he's going off his jaw compared to the other jaws we had there. We knew the ages of a couple of deer, and we were able to compare deer from that area with the same jaw and everything. And the teeth on his looked worn down like an 8.5-year-old, you know. So
you shot him when he was at that, like on his trot past you at 20 meters, or that's when you filmed him?
No, I shot him the next day. I sort of went back. I thought, I wonder if he's going to do the same thing the next day. So I put myself in the same position. And yeah, lo and behold, he sort of really done the same thing the next day.
Yeah. Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
So with the antlers for the Rusa, they've got the 3 tines usually, or the beam plus your 2 tines. Is that how it works?
Yeah. As a general rule, there's 3 points of sides, pretty typical. Mm-hmm. They've got just the brows, and then they've got the outers, which are like opposite to a chital. Chital's got an inners, which are like on the inside of the main beam.
Yep.
And the Rusa have got the outers, which are on the outside of the main beam.
And so what dictates a cull? If they're missing one of those, essentially?
No. You don't find too many. It's just a different shape. You might get them real tall, narrow heads that I like them wider, heavier fellas.
Straight up type thing rather than out to the side.
Yeah, I'd rather something a bit wider that goes out past their ears and up, sort of more like a goalpost style thing, you know. And then you'll find some that have got real small outers that they've never got. Their outers aren't any good, or they're real high. The outers are high.
Yeah.
It's like chital. You know, their inners too high. You want the inners, the second tine. You want it as low down that main beam as what you can. That's sort of what we look. We like those the tops, which is that main antler that sticks up, the longest antler or that longest tine. You want it. Yeah, you just like long tops on most of those deer. You know.
Yeah.
Those sort of deer. Yeah.
And I cut you off just before you were about to say something else.
Was I? Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right.
You don't get me wrong. You're going to get some funky looking deer, like as in some real. Yeah, they will have different antlers, but a lot of those different antler deer, they've either got an injury or they've had a head injury where they've done something to their pedicle where their antlers growing a little bit wonky on one side is a little bit different, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're and like I said, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Like what's a trophy to one man mightn't be the trophy to the next, but it doesn't matter what. As long as you're happy with them, that's
the thing.
That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it shouldn't, like I was saying, you shouldn't be. I've seen a few blokes. I struggle with some organisations. They shoot for this and that, and they're worried about points and scores and that. And it's just like I've seen blokes be disappointed with stuff, and nothing else pisses me off than someone that shoots something. They're ecstatic with it, then they measure it, and then they
get upset. Yeah.
Oh, I don't understand that shit.
No, me either.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've got things I've not measured. Like I've got plenty of boar teeth that I've never ever measured, and I've got people hitting me up like, "Oh man, tell me." I'm like, I don't really care. Like it's the hunt. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's all that matters at the end of the day, doesn't it? You know, as long as you had a good hunt and you're happy with it, that's how it should be. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And so, May, in general, is there anything else that we kind of really need to cover on before we move on? The boys are pretty much bachelored up for most of May. There might be a few girls kind of cycling.
Yeah, you're going to find, don't get me wrong, they'll be bachelored up. They might split up. They'll go and check out what's going on, but they could still be, it's a good time to hunt them because you only got a couple of eyes to contend with. You've only got that small group and they're a little bit more patternable. So to me, May is, shit's still patternable, but shit's starting to heat up. Like it's a transition time where they've left the bachelor or they're leaving them big bachelor mobs at stags and they're breaking up into smaller ones and they're going back into the country that they know or they want to. That's where they're gonna rut. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've seen stags turn up. I've seen with the Rusa especially. I've seen them come in from the bachelor mobs up there, and I know all these stags have got different characteristics. So, and when you video them as much as I do, you sort of, and you watch the footage back, you get to pick up their little, his tine does this, his second tine's this, or his tops, or the shape of him. You can think, oh, fuck, I've seen him before. Go back through your footage. Oh, there he is. Have a look there. And I've seen them come in with all the hinds and that in a pair, and I've seen them spend a day there. And then 2 days later, they're back out with the other mob. It's as though they've done a little bit of a recce in there to see what's going on, and then they're back out with the boys again, either telling them what's going down or, they're just, things aren't ready. They're back there,
Kissing and telling.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that, but that's, to me, like May going into June, I hunt them very similar to that. Coming into July, it's intercepting, it's all action. It's trying to intercept them in the morning. We used to try and get them on the flats because you're limited with cover, so I'd like to get between where I know they're bedding and where they're feeding, and there'd be a couple of gullies or tree lines, and that's where I'd try and stash, like have the blokes or the hunters that were with me. I'd have us staggered in these dry creeks or in these tree lines, and then hopefully try and intercept it something as it comes past early in the morning. By mid morning, things are starting to settle down. They're starting to bed up here and there. So then it's another thing where you hunt them. Sometimes you can hunt them bedded up, and other times you're hitting those stags that are a little bit late. They might go and have a waller, and they're stragglers, and you can concentrate on them and maybe call those too. So early in the morning, after this stage, going into June, it's just I'd rather be hunting them, looking for those little bachelor mobs and trying to concentrate on them and make a play. And then the next stage, it's different again,
So something that you just said, and it's actually something that Sean said to me, Sean Chick, that I'm going to hunt on his block.
is that they come to a section and then they go back to a section, so that they're coming down to eat and then they're going back to bed, for instance.
Yep.
He said that where they will come down is usually like around the homestead where we're actually going to be staying. He said all night you'll hear them roaring and carrying on.
Yep.
Is this like very similar in regards to, so same for what you were saying, essentially they'll go from their bedding area to an eating area and then they're going back? Is that always the way?
Yeah, well, it is. It's not just Rusa. That's every year. So to me, early mornings and late arvos, the noises take you to those areas. But once you work out where they're rutting and where they're going to, especially in that country, what Sean's telling you about that area out there, that's what I'd be doing. He'll know the places that this is where they come and they're rutting around the house, and this is where they end up through the middle of the day. So if you can be in between those areas, like say 8 o'clock or 9, you get there at first light, but be between where they're going to be. Like, you get yourself in those positions, find those rub lines or those game trails where they're coming to and from, and that's where you'll be using his experience there to tell you or put you in those areas where you need to be, you know. And don't get me wrong, it could go on mid-morning, 11 o'clock, they could be still making a heap of noise, pushing each other around, but they'll slowly move back to where they're going to be bedded up for the day, and then in the afternoon they'll do the role reverse, so they'll come back in overnight. So
yeah, it's very interesting because something he was saying, and I mean, I'll unpack this more when I go up there and I'll have an episode with him, but he was saying that he pretty much recommends that you don't even really hunt that much in the afternoon for those deer. Maybe it's the lay of his block, I don't know, but he was saying essentially he's too worried about scenting up the area and ruining the same thing happening, essentially them coming down that night, and then you ruin your chances in the morning. Yeah,
well, that might be the if that's the case, there'd be a reason. There could be the breeze isn't blowing right for the afternoons to get them coming back into that same way, or you might have to think, well, afternoons we're better off hunting a different area. There's not as many there, but let's go and find out. Say you're not putting as much scent in those areas there. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, and every place is different. But we used to put those deer was on there, and I can tell you now there's a couple of creeks there, and I had a game trail warning there, creeks from blokes or hunters following me up in the morning and back in the morning. We come in and out the same way every day, in, day out. And I don't some of them deer cross those points. Some of the deer will balk at your scent. Rooster got their noses off the ground a little bit, and depending on how much sun it gets on and how windy that day is. During the rut, don't get me wrong, you can't escape putting your scent here and there everywhere, but it depends on how much pressure and how many deer are there. Everywhere's a little bit different, so you've just got to go on what he's telling you. I know with the boys over in the States with elk in certain places, they didn't like hunting the elk in their bedding areas because you blow them out of the bedding areas, you got no idea where they're going to be in that afternoon. You're going to push them somewhere else. If you leave them in the bedding areas, at least you know they're there and you know where they're going to come back from. Yeah. So in the afternoons, if they're travelling, depending how far they're travelling, you might be better off hunting them closer to their bedding areas, and say you're intercepting them earlier in the afternoon instead of waiting on their feeding areas, and they're getting there right on dark and you've got no time to hunt them. Like, you're better off being sort of meet them hard. The lay of the land and the wind and everything will dictate how much cover you got, will dictate where you should be, whether you should be close or far. But in the mornings, I'd rather have a crack at them as they're coming out, and then maybe have a crack at them as they're bedding up. But I had the luxury of going, if I blew that area there, well, I could go to another spot and I'd look here and there. Other people mightn't have that luxury where they might only have that one mob, and you've got to be very careful how you hunt them. Yeah, makes total sense. In regards to bedding areas, what have you found kind of typical for Rusa? What are they like? It varied. They like that thick cover. Like, don't get me wrong, they appreciate it, but I've seen them bed down the middle. They're one animal that I can't understand how they can lay out in the sun all day long. You know what I mean? They're not scared of the sun. They're happy to lay in it and soak it up, And where the chital will always go back to somewhere that's a little bit thicker, and it's very rarely you'll catch a chital stag laying in the middle of that opening like you will with Rusa where I hunted them anyway.
Yeah.
And when we were in like New Caledonia years ago, they were all moving back up into that thicker stuff during the day. You know, they feel a bit safer and they bed down. And it's funny when they grass up and they've got that grass in their antlers and they parade around as their king shit, like they just want to be seen. They look like an arrogant fuck walking around, you know. But that's them.
Yeah.
That's what makes them a little bit different from the other deer species. And they're as cool as, like, they're one cool critter to hunt, I reckon.
Definitely. No, I'm so looking forward to mixing it up and also just getting to see them do that. Like, it's just such a unique character to go and do. So, yeah, it's interesting. The one block that I've hunted on that had Rusa on it, it was very thick with lantana. And they said, look, you'll see them all throughout the lantana. You'll never get a shot on them, but you'll just see them duck in and out and weaving in through. But that wasn't during the rut time. So, yeah, I guess, obviously, I don't know. We'll maybe touch on the stuff after the rut afterwards.
Yeah, but you might be better in that sort of situation if it is thick like that. Just find those travel routes and those laneways and alleyways, and it's an ambush thing. You know, that's what you've got to. That's where your game cameras come in handy. You can, if you've got that there, you put them on a few trails, find out when they are traveling through that area, and then, you know, work it that way. Like, you know, we've got nowadays. There's a lot of things at our disposal to use to sort of make it a little bit easier for us or give us a little bit of advantage on them, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So heading into June, anything different that you start to see?
Yeah, like I said, things start happening in June. Like the wallers start to get used. They're bulking up and they're moving in, and you're getting the odd roars here and there. So that's when your calls will start to come into play, because you might be able to sound slutty enough to drag one in to have a look at you. You know what I mean? Like it's the same as if you treat all deer the same. There's just because you see a stag doesn't mean you can call him in. You've got to find out what sort of mood he's in.
Yeah.
If he's walking around, cruising around, roaring and cruising, not feeding, the chances are he's on the search for something. He's looking for something. So they're the ones you can interact with. Chital are the same, fallow the same, red are the same. They're the ones you can probably interact with. They're searching for something.
Definitely.
Those ones that are like, with the ball is feeding. Like, you can hind call all you like, but I don't think you know. At that time of year, I don't think you're going to drag one of them away. You might drag them. Just they might be curious. They might get one out of the mob that's curious, and the others will end up following him. And I've probably had that a few times, to tell you the truth. Actually, I had Lockie Lewis and his old man come up there a couple of years ago, and I called the same stag in for me a couple of times that same week. It was the same. It was uncanny, and I thought, he had two spikes and another, like a 2.5-year-old, a 3.5-year-old with him, and this, you know. But it just where he come in, he just come over real slow searching for it, and it was painful. And the other ones were ringing around. It was just, and then they got too close, and then I couldn't call. I just stayed tight-lipped, and we never got the crack at him. But it was the same stag. Like, I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but anyway, I must have been making the right noise for him to come in and have a look.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd get him because there was a couple others there, but you know, he came in twice. But so it is doable, but it's I'd rather be searching for those loners, looking for those rub areas and all those wallers. Wallers will work too. You know, the hotter it is, you know, especially through the rut, those wallers work pretty good because they get their blood. It doesn't boil, but it gets what they warm themselves up. It's like,
definitely,
you know, you need to hydrate and cool down a bit, you know.
And so, 2 questions. I'm going to say them straight away so I don't forget them. One is around the wallow. If they used them last year, will they use them again this year? The second is around, like, raking. Will you rake and carry on a little bit, like scratch a tree or flick some grass up at all if you try and call them in?
Raking would work, rattling would work, but you got to understand that Rusa's antlers, they are heavy. They are solid as that. There's no clicking. They clunk when they hit each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can rake trees. That's just a normal noise. So that'd work. And we've raked trees for Rusa, chital, fallow. I know it works on all them, and there's no reason, that works on elk, but there's no reason it wouldn't work on most deer if you get the right stag in the right frame of mind. Just curious to come and have a look. Scraping your foot on the ground, like brushing through the grass. If you've got enough cover to do that, for him to come and have a look, it's no use doing it in the open because you need to have missing ground where he's got to come and you can keep an eye on him and he's got to come and expect you. He's got to come around. You might be a drop off there, or it might be missing ground behind you, like a bank going down to a river or a creek or the side of a ridge, and you've got enough cover that you can just get his attention. Yeah, so I'd definitely, those tactics that, they all come into play.
Yeah.
What was one of the other ones you asked me
about? The wallow. Will it be
the wallows
reused?
Yeah, if it's got, so this is where it changes. Like each year, Australia's seasons, we get a wet season, then next year's a bit drier or it's a bit wetter. So in that country I'm hunting, there's certain areas that get wallows in them every year, as certain water holes that dry up. I will see wallows in them, and I will see wallows in certain dams. And I will see, if they've had a good season, you'll get little muddy clay holes here and there, and as soon as it's rained, I'm going to check them because they work it. They will use the same ones when there's water there, but that it might necessarily be year after year. It might be every couple of years. As whenever there's water in it, they use it. So it's just it is a good tactic, and I've set tree stands up for hunters near wallows and with pretty good success. So
okay. And if it's really dry, just sit on your dam sort of thing instead? Yeah,
you got two things. When it's dry, there'll be game trails that are going from their bedding area to the feeding area. You'll be able to see them because they'll stand out when it's dry, and that you see them feed in these areas. So you've got to, I'd rather be trying to intercept them on there than just waiting on water at dams. Everywhere's different, mate. I've had rivers and creeks on some of the places where I've hunted rooster in the past, and dams will work, but it's like I said, it's got to be, if it's the only water, it's probably a good option, If there's a lot of water there, well, probably it's just it's probably not. I'd rather pick those game trails that are getting used a lot,
Definitely.
If you want a bit more, but that all depends on how much sign or how much cover you've got there and what if the wind will allow you to hunt that with the right amount of cover, But you can't wave it off. I'm not going to say, no, don't, because I've hunted water for chital, reds, fallow, and like Rusa come into the dams. So we sat on them up there, especially when it's hot and dry. And if that rut's nearby, everything still needs a drink, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it can be a good option for you.
Yeah. And so back to the June situation, when did the girls start to hang out a lot more? Do they ever stop?
No, they're always in their mobs, eh?
Okay.
They're always in. Don't get me wrong, you'll get that odd hind or 3/4 grown one there that's by itself in the middle of nowhere, and that's probably one if you need food for the table. Hind calling them or a lost call, you normally get them coming your way.
All year round or just at that time?
Nah, all year round.
Yeah, wow.
And it's the thing about them too is they don't roost at the is a little bit, but a lot of the times they've got their babies with them. They don't stash them as much as chital. Chital hinds always they just stash their young. You're always kicking them out of the grass. Whereas Rusa, you kick the odd Rusa like little fawn out, but most of the time they're with their mums. They're not too far away. The mums would never leave them.
Yeah.
Never leave them as much as what I see chital do, no. So, yeah.
At what point, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but at what point if you shoot a mum, you don't know that's got a fawn, then all of a sudden the fawn comes out, how old does a fawn have to be able to live for itself?
We see them up there in the paddocks there a fair bit, when I say the paddock, in the irrigation paddocks that get cut, where they cut hay and stuff there a bit, and the fence there is like a ring lock fence, so they get stuck in there a bit. And we see multiple fawns in there, and they're always feeding. Or they're always got their heads down and they're there for weeks. Like, I don't know whether their mums come and go and they just stash them there like daycare. I don't know, but they
The deer crash.
yeah, but they're always feeding, mate. You know, I think if they're half the size of their mum, they're in with a pretty good chance. You know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of dogs in that area up there, so they and the wedgies up there clean up heaps of fawns.
Yeah.
Heaps and heaps of fawns.
Yeah, I can imagine. Those wedgies, they're something else. They're huge.
Oh, yeah. No, we see them chasing the chital there all the time and chasing the Rusa and the wallabies all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen one double like claw into a kangaroo's chest once. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, like I said, they don't know anything else, mate. They fly. They're always looking for food. They're looking for their next feed. That's what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And so when will the girls actually start to get a bit more vocal?
Yeah, late June, July there. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
The other time of year they're very vocal is once they first drop their fawns.
Okay. Because they're constantly talking to the fawn? Or
And all these species are the same. You might hear it, you might have to be close, especially with like chital, you got to be a little bit closer. You won't hear them as much, but they're talking all the time to their young when they drop it. And the same with the fallow does when they drop their fawns around January, like in Christmas there. You hear them heaps. And it's like a mother with its newborn. It's here, put that, a toddler.
Yeah.
Here, put that down. Come back here. Don't do that. They must be doing similar things, So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely heard the fallow go a fair bit. I've heard reds during the rut talking to their young, but I've not heard them outside of that. But I probably haven't spent that much time there during January either. So yeah.
Oh, it's a lot more gentler calls. It's not as
a little smaller ones.
And you'll find even with those Rusa stags, when I call them in, if they've been bedded down, and I call them like I hind call them, they make the same noise back to me, but it's very subtle.
The stag does, or the hind?
Stag does. No, the stag does.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but you've got to be close enough to hear it, and you'll hear it with. I've heard it with elk. Elk over in the States. I've had a bachelor mob of bulls, like they're only young fellas, but they were mewing and talking to each other like it sounded like the cow talking, but just very subtle, very soft.
Yeah, wow.
Because they were all just there. They weren't speaking out for trying to get something. They weren't trying to convey their voice a distance. It was they were all
just having a little conversation. Yeah,
a little close vicinity. It's like us talking in a room. You won't hear us 100 yards away, but if someone's shouting to try and get your attention, you'll hear them.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. So, in regards to the girls starting to get a bit more vocal, the boys are vocal already. This is obviously a good time for you to start calling probably a little bit more. Is there like a sequence of calls or anything like that you're trying to do frequently?
Not really, mate. I don't like, honestly. I don't like calling unless I have to. If I can stalk something and kill it, I'm going to stalk something and kill it.
Yeah, like without it ever knowing you're even there. You're not drawing any attention at all. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I'll make enough noise and movement as it is. Like I don't need to know. Like keep something alert that I'm coming or whatever it is. I will mask my noise sometimes. Like if it's terribly dry, and you were talking about that before, if it's dry where you hunt water. Well, sometimes when it's dry, to try and make ground on something, it's near impossible. Like it just every step is a killer, and that's why I started trying to call stuff years ago, so they could come to me instead of me going to them. But it was if I could, and you learn to call things certain ways, and hunting chital was the same thing. Like I was just understanding which stags I had to target to call in made a huge difference, and it was me just having to work that out and work out which ones. And Rusa's the same. I'm not one for blind calling. I prefer to glass something, see something first up, glass it and think, is that what we want to hunt? You want to hunt this thing? And if I've got hunters with me and that's what they want to do, that's what we do, and then it might be, righto, let's get in position. I reckon I can make this happen, and we'll get in position to try and call something. Otherwise, it's like, no, he's better. I reckon you sneak in there as close as you can and wait for him to stand up And it just depends on your time frame. Is it your last afternoon, first afternoon? Have we got much, time? If I think I can get him to stand with a hind call, I'm going to do it, but I'll make sure old mate's totally hidden before I do that, Or when I say old mate, I'm making sure the hunter is in the right position, everything's right, and then I'll call. I'll try and I won't put the hunter between me and that deer. I'll put them between, but off to the side.
Yeah, so when the deer comes past, it's 9 degrees sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's triangulated a bit. So the deer, a lot of the times they'll come to me or they'll come and try and use the wind, and I know, depending on the age of it, whether they'll do this or that. So I try and get the hunter in a position where if he comes straight to me, he's in trouble. If he tries to come around and get that wind, he's still in trouble. Like especially if I've got two hunters there, which I like hunting 2-on-1. I'm second. If I'm 1-on-1, I second guess myself half the time. When I've got 2-on-1, I cover both. Yeah. So.
Yeah, definitely. And so, in regards to that, you're saying you're setting them up, then you're doing a little call, cow call, hind call to try get them.
Yeah.
Is it like I've had it a few different times. Sometimes you'll do a call and they'll hop up and they'll come straight in on a string. Other times you'll do a call and they'll notice you. You can see their ear flick or something like that. They'll notice you, but they don't move. How long will you sit in cow call or hind call if they're not coming?
Now I'll try a couple of different ways. It depends if they're roaring at you when I'm hind calling. I think, I've got him interested. Mm-hmm. But if they don't roar back at you, and they might notice it, there's something. He's not feeling it. He's not. You know what I mean? Or I'm not sounding.
Yeah, not going heaps.
I'm not doing the right noises. So it's just a matter. And if the hunter I'm with wants, if that's what the deer they want, we're just sitting there. That's us.
Yeah.
We're there till he stands up. Especially if he's if I've got him in a position and I'm thinking, right, I'll put it in his head that there's deer this way. He's not coming. That's the one you want. Even though you're 60 yards off him and that's where you're at there now, I'll either say, sneak. I'll try and get him to sneak in, or them. If it's depending, we're going to say them. If it's a chick or a buck, but get them to sneak in on that deer while it's bedded up still.
Yep.
If it's possible. If not, we just got to wait it out. If it's nothing, if it's like I said, I had the luxury up there. I just had a number of animals that we could, if it wasn't going to happen here, I'll give them the option. We can either wait this out or we can go and look for something else. And then if that was this is him. This is the one I want to hunt. Well, let's stay. No, he's leaving.
Definitely.
We found him. This is what you want. Let's just see what he does. If we can't get a shot at him today, we might find out what he does. We might find out where he goes, what he does. And the next time we see him in the same position, we've got one up on him then. We might, we know where he might go. We know what he might do.
So let's say that you're hunting late June and you've got 4 days on a block. What does your typical game plan look like?
First day or first afternoon or morning will be cover as much country as I can on
in a car
with a vehicle.
Yep.
In a car. If it's flat country, I'll cover as much country as I can in a car.
And you don't mind when you're stopping up or anything? You just stop in, have a glass, then keep driving.
Yeah. I'll just do that. If it's in the hills, it's looking for vantage points so I can
try glass maximal amount.
Yeah, try and glass so I can see, and I want to be able to see where I think deer movement during late arvo, early morning. I want to be in a position where I can see shit moving.
Yeah.
So I want to find those glass, and that'll tell me where the deer are coming from and going to, or vice versa. You know what I mean? And I think, all right, or they're feeding out in that ridge, or they're traveling along that spur, or they're traveling down that gully. It's giving me a bit of intel, and then that's telling me where I need to be that afternoon or the next morning. I've got something to go for, Yeah. If I haven't seen anything at all, I've just got to keep going. Next morning I'll be doing the same thing but in a different area. If that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm looking for that sign, and if you've got the luxury to drive a few roads, check fences, check game trails cutting through here, look for this and that, look for rub trees, drive. If you haven't got that luxury to drive, walk your ridges, vantage points, check a bit of water. You don't have to walk around water. Like I said, if there's Rusa in the area, they'll be leaving grass, leaves. There'll be shit falling on around the edge of that water. There'll be wallers there. That's telltale signs. You'll see mud up a tree a certain height. It'll be higher than what pigs do. So,
And they just brush up against it like a pig would.
Yeah, they rub their necks and that on there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see you'll see grass. Sorry,
right.
Grass twisted up. Yeah, twisted up in the ground, and you'll see that's where they grass up with their antlers. They sort of twist it up. Or you see clumps of grass that are falling off their antlers. On game trails and that, you're in the right area.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Do they, I mean...
Sorry.
No, you're right. Where I hunt, like, for reds and even fallow, I've seen it quite a lot. The tufts of hair will be stuck in the barbed wire where they're crossing. Does that happen for the rooster as well?
Yeah, it does.
Or is their hair
it does.
it's not too thick? Yeah,
it is brutal, but it gets caught in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it definitely caught in there. But you're mainly looking for those rub trees and the same thing I say with everyone, if you're looking for feeding areas, what dictates a feeding area? If you're not seeing shit there, like the deer shit, rooster shit there,
mm-hmm.
they're not feeding there.
Okay. Yeah,
it's the same. It's every critter's the same. It's the same with pigs, all the other deer species. They, you'll see wherever they're feeding and they're frequenting a lot, wherever you see them a lot, there is shit everywhere. Not just new shit, there's old shit. Mm-hmm. Different stages of shit, and that'll tell you that they're there, not just now, not 2 months ago. If you're not seeing any fresh shit, you know they're not there.
Yeah.
Simple as that. You want to be in an area where you're seeing it. You want to see it along the game trails you're walking. Just you want to see it in those certain areas, and there'll be a lot of it if you're in the right area, especially with them bachelor mobs.
Mm.
You'll see you'll be lit, and you're in the right area. You just got to be silent, get that wind right, and keep poking nice and slow. You just got to, if it's thick country, it's a couple of steps and you just got to keep using your knockies and glass.
Yeah.
If it's that open country, you've got to get height. Height's the best thing in that open country. I use my vehicle a lot. I get on top and I just, on top of the roof, I glass and glass and glass.
Yeah. Then you're literally looking for like a tip, an antler tip sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm looking for anything that's just a bit different. Antler tip, a shape, like a dark shape that's, like a horizontal line in the grass.
Mm-hmm.
Rooster are hard to see. The colour of them, it blends in, eh? And then you get a bit of mud on them and they roll in the grass and they got leaves, mud, hair. It's unbelievably how good they blend in.
Mate, I have trouble seeing the red deer sometimes, and they're freaking big and red.
They're all got their nature's little camo.
They do, yeah. It is interesting to see how they just blend in so naturally. So coming into July then, is there anything else you want to add to June or?
No, just you just got to be, like I said, the more time you spend on them, and everywhere's a little bit different. If you're not hearing them, you probably can do. If you get to a new place, like I said, that first night, don't just go and sit in. If you're staying at a hut or whatever, get out in that camping ground or get out in the hunting grounds in your vehicle or walk up the top of the ridge, especially if as long as it's not real windy, get up on the top of that ridge because noise travels a fair bit in the cool.
Yep.
Like the cooler it is, noise travels and it travels in a direct line a bit. Like it's sort of, you mightn't hear something down over a lip, but if you get on a high ridge, you might hear them roaring in the distance here or there, and you think, well, righto, that's something's obviously going on over there.
Mm.
That might there's another thing. I was over the car today, but there must be something I'm missing. It's off the road. It might be a patch. You might have to walk in a couple of k's to find them.
Mm-hmm.
But just when it's quiet at night, they let themselves down a little bit. They make a bit of noise. That's what draws us to them. So, well, in the morning, like you mightn't hear them at first light. They might have moved, but at night, grab a couple of beers, go up, sit up there and have a listen. Or if you're not a beer drinker, go and have a coffee out there.
Yeah. Are they typical in the sense of like reds and fallow, where they'll harp on a little bit more when it's a bit cooler as well?
Yeah, I reckon they all do, mate. Like I said, I think the rut, it doesn't boil the blood, but it definitely warms them up, and I reckon that's why we hear them more the cooler days, because I reckon they can handle it better. It's like us. I reckon them days when it is hot, like we're not out. Well, some of us aren't out slaving our guts working. If you've got an option, you're not going to be doing it.
Definitely, yeah.
So, but those days when it's a little bit cooler and a bit more comfortable, you can handle it better.
Yeah. It's when you love to run wires to the roof, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, mate, I'll wait for them 40 plus days. There's nothing better than running wires through a roof, mate, I can tell you. If you haven't done it, you need to do it at least a dozen times to appreciate it.
Yeah. You won't find out in the first one.
Oh, no, honestly, and you'll be wishing it's only 40. You'll be wishing it was only 40 degrees in the roof.
I can imagine.
She gets a lot hotter up there. Anyway.
And so in regards to coming into July then, like they're still obviously carrying on. Like I'm just so blown away with how dragged out it is. Like if there's a heightened peak of the rut, would you say it's kind of that last week of June or early week of July or late July?
Yeah. No, I'd say it's July.
Yeah, July. Just the whole month in general.
Yeah, and mate, and I'm saying this too because it depends on the numbers in that area.
Definitely.
Right, I've been fortunate enough to hunt a few areas where I had decent numbers, and I suppose that's why I ran hunts there because it was worth it. You know what I mean? It was. Whereas if you've got just a little patch of them, you mightn't find that, or if you haven't got the numbers, them stags mightn't be. They mightn't have to make a noise. They've got the girls there.
Yeah,
they've got nothing. They're not by themselves. They've got what they want, so they can just hang to themselves, So,
so like just for a rough estimate or statement, like how many are you kind of talking that you had access to?
Yeah, there's like
50s, hundreds, 20s.
Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And so if there is a smaller block, like there's definitely someone reached out and said, I just can't pattern them. He's in central Queensland. He's like, I just can't pattern them for the rut.
Yeah.
So obviously that's where you just have to be out there all the time, right?
Yeah, it is. And you might find that rut in certain places might be August more than July. It might be June, So, and I think depending how north you are or how south you are and how cold it is and where that moon phase is, that'll all play or dictate how much action you see,
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, what I was going to say, but it's hard if you've got 2 days to check out, an area that's say 30,000 acres in 2 days. It ain't going to happen.
No.
If it's 1,000 acres, well, yeah, you might 2 days. You might be able to check it out. Depends how much scent you want to put around, or how thick the block is, or what it's got there. Every block's different,
Yeah, definitely. As a side note, did you see anything different this year in regards to the rut where you usually hunt for the fallow and the reds?
No, I didn't. I just every year's no 2 years are exactly the same.
Definitely.
It's one thing I did see this year, I saw way more hinds where 100 reds, and I've seen way more days where 100 fallow. Right? And I didn't get to spend enough time on the reds, but that was just the way it is. I only had a few days to get on them this year, and then with the fallow, I spent a fair bit of time. I only hunted I didn't hunt a stack of different places this year, but I hunted a few different places, and they were just fallow like normal.
Yeah.
They were like, I had a lot of blokes ringing me up and asking me what's going on, and I'm thinking, just normal shit. You know what I mean? It's some days they make a lot of noise and other days they don't, and it's just we saw 1 day this year in March, and it was one of the. Well, put it this way, it was one of the pre-rut courses I do, and Mick was helping us out. He saw 14 bucks that morning, right? 14 bucks, and they were doing a fair bit of stuff, like they were going off, and that was in the middle of March, or might have been around the 20th of March or something like that. But in that stage, and I took the unlucky 2 blokes with me, and I think we heard a few crickets in that one gully we're in, and I think something's going on here. Like it felt dead. Like even the kangaroos, it was a bit weird, eh? The kangaroos, they weren't everywhere like they normally were, and there's either some prick had jumped the fence and had been through there, or done whatever. But I seen one buck up high for that morning, and honestly, I'll tell you this how bad it was. we seen that there, and I even said there was goats in this one corner of this place, and I even give the boys the option to go and chase a goat on a fallow hunt, and they both took me up on it. I thought, oh shit, what's the world coming to? But anyway, we that's how it was. But we saw one buck, and I think I'm not even sure if we heard one, but Mick saw 14.
Yeah, wow.
And he was 2 Ks away.
We actually saw very similar on Randy's block, right?
Yeah.
It was the same sort of thing, and it was interesting. It was like at the pinpoint, or the I don't know what you'd call it, the arrowhead of the valley versus the back end of the valley. The back end of the valley had all the action happening earlier on versus the arrowhead, the point of it didn't really have as much going on at all.
Yeah, righto.
And that was all of, probably 2K, 3K, something like that.
Yeah, and I was talking to Mick. I said, because he said the bucks were going off, something was going on in there. I said, I wonder if one of them days was cycling. And it's fired them up, or there's 2 bucks fighting over one area. And there was something there that really caused them to go off. And I don't know what it was. It was just a matter of he's seen a lot. The boys had an unreal morning. We come back and we just listen to story after story, and oh, what you fellas seen? I think, seen a few goats.
A couple nannies,
yeah. But it's the way it is, and I know hunting up there on the chital, I'll get some days where goes berserk, not over the rut, but other times of year where I'll hear a heap of stags calling out in one area, and chital are a bit different because if there's a doe or a hind cycling, you won't hear that stag call out, right? He's calling out, chasing. He's wanting action. He's after hinds and that. A stag that's got hinds up in that area, especially where I hunted, he's making only noise you'll hear him make is when he growls at other stags that are hanging around him.
Yeah, makes sense.
But you'll hear stags just offering him calling out because they know there's something in the air, and they're trying to liven it up. You know what I mean? But the stag with a hind, that's cycling on chital, they very rarely call out when there's a hind cycling there. Not like a fallow buck standing over a hind, he does not shut up.
Yeah.
And
what about the Rusa? Will they stick nose to ass like the
yeah,
fallow
they will, mate. Yeah, definitely. But they'll roar and carry on a bit, but they're not. Once they've got their hind, they're roaring a little bit, but nothing like not frantic like reds and fallow. Unless they're getting harassed, they'll sort of they will go on a bit, but don't get me wrong, they're pretty vocal and pretty active, and it's good to see. But they're just a different deer again. You know what I mean? They're a bit more casual. I don't know if you can be casual and arrogant, but that's what they are.
Yeah. And so say for instance you've found a stag that is on a girl and he's staying close to her non-stop. Yeah. What's going to be your game plan for that guy?
Well, what that'll normally do when you try to hunt something like that in the open country, you'll end up walking a lot of kilometres because they will
just keep pushing.
They'll lay down for a bit. You'll try and make a play in there. There'll be a few other stags hanging around there. You get up, then she might take him 300 or 400 yards over there. Then you've got to try and cut that distance, wait for the other stags to move, wait for them to say nothing can see you. You might have cattle to contend with it. It can be a bit of a pain. Or you might be able to use it like as a distress phone call, like I told you earlier, especially if you've got enough cover to make her come and have a look. That's one thing we can sort of do, you know what I mean, to sort of try and cut that distance or but you've got to be in the right position, and it's not going to always work for you.
No.
And it can also make her piss off or make that stag push her away,
And so the distress phone call, that's just a more high-pitched, essentially, cow call.
Just a little bit high-pitched, a little bit more high-pitched and a little bit more frequent.
Short,
like you're
sharp.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're lost, like they're calling out for, where are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
It's not help, but it's like, it's like that too. The other thing too, mate, is up in that country, there are 2 predator calls. Number of time using predator calls for dogs. I don't know how many deer I've called in, And I think that's a motherly instinct taken over. And it's not just that, because I reckon I've had probably at least half a dozen stags come in, not big ones, but young ones.
Yeah.
But a lot, mainly chital. You get a fair few Rusa running through, but I haven't had any Rusa stags come in, but I've had a lot of, half a dozen chital stags come in. You know what I mean?
Wow. What sort of predator calls? Like a hare call or a rabbit call?
Yeah, like your hair call, like a Scotch predator call.
Predators, yeah.
Yeah, or I use a like a Primos call, like a cottontail call, double root cottontail. Yeah, it's like just a predator call. You screech like there's something going on because there's betongs and other wallabies up there, and they almost make like a little. Well, we've caught chital fawns that are caught in a little paddock, and they get wedged up in behind the gate. You grab hold of them, the noises that come out of their mouths are horrendous. Like, it's honestly, it's not right, but it seems to work. And like I said, their instincts take over, and some will run in to try and help, and it might be like a dog's got it or an eagle's got it, and they might be able to feel like they can fend it off,
It's pretty hilarious.
But in saying that too, I've called that plenty of times trying to call dogs because we've had dogs there, and it might have been because the dogs were there, the deer ran. You know what I mean? That was just like it had the opposite reaction of
they run the other way.
Yeah, I've emptied a few fucking patches of bushes out up there that were full of deer that no longer had deer in them when I've made the wrong calls too, So
yeah. And so in regards to July, or let's say the back end of the rut, is there anything that we're kind of missing?
No, you'll get plenty of stags laying about. Like they poke off by themselves. They'll hang with around the bunches, and then they'll go off in bed solo. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a pretty good time to
go after them.
Yeah, the same thing is, but you wait for them to bed down solo, and then you can have that breed in your mouth so you can call him, you know what I mean, if you need to.
Yeah.
If you can get in and you can't get a shot because he's in too thick a cover, you might be able to drag him out, Mm-hmm. See, on my I have got a bit of that on I talk about the calls a bit on my Insta page. Mm-hmm. What do you call it? There's the highlight reels you sort of got under your...
Yeah, up the top
I've got a few things like I've got like those easy veins and broadheads but I've got that I think I'll talk about a Rusa call because it just happened. It was last year or the year before. I had so many people saying, just contacted me, and I thought, I'll just save trying to do it to 20 different blokes. I'll just put it up and it's there for everyone to sort of see.
Amazing.
But I make a few calls on that and talk about it a bit there. So,
do you, like those reeds? You can buy them here in Australia, can't you? You don't have to import them.
No, I had to get them from the States. I've always got them from the States.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone brings them in because they should do, but the hunting stores over here, I don't think they understand enough or don't want to listen to you enough. It's not widely known or not widely asked for. Mm. It probably would be if you asked a couple of stores to get them in, they probably would, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. But to just buy one sort, it's pretty hard. If they asked you what sort you want, unless you know the shape of your mouth and what works best for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a look, and it's literally just called Rusa Calls. So if you jump to the front of, to Brad's page on socials, which is Brad Smith _bowhunt _down under, and it's the second circle from the left. If you're looking at the circles, you'll see it there. So yeah, how good.
Yeah, it's just like I said, it gives you a bit of an indication, and I think I talk about what brands and that, but I know Primos and Phelps are pretty, two pretty good brands that and they've got a lot of different reeds over there. And if you buy half a dozen different coloured ones, and I think the different colour ones have got different pitches or the latex in them is different thicknesses in them. So you might have to blow as hard or to try and, make them work. If that makes sense.
Definitely.
And you've got to, like I said, you've just got to muck around and they don't last forever. You've got to look after them too, because once that latex is torn, it's
done.
Yeah. I've probably got a couple of calls on my pages there too where the call is rooted, but I'm still trying to get something out to make something happen, and it sounds like a sick dog. But, they don't all sound the same, and you don't have to be pitch perfect to make it work sometimes. You probably do with the older ones, but with some of the younger dumber ones or inquisitive ones or less pressured ones, you probably get away with a lot more,
Have you ever had any luck without a reed, like just doing it by hand?
No.
No. Yeah. Okay.
No, not like I do with fallow and reds. I can sort of, I don't think I sound like Fran Drescher of red hinds when I real nasally when I call red hind, but it seems to work. You know what I mean? And the fallow, I use just a variety of different calls with the fallow, depending on what mood the bucks are in, what they need. But as it comes with Rusa, I just I've always tried to use the reeds because I can't quite get that noise out of my mouth.
Yeah, and then one question I didn't really ask was, and you've kind of alluded to it, but the reds and the fallow will get satellite stags that will kind of hang around non-stop.
Yep.
Is it very similar for the Rusa?
Yeah, Rusa and chital will be the same. And Rusa, you can roar them in. Like I've roared in, I don't know, a fair few stags now, like Rusa stags.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them they respond more to a roar than they will with a hind call. So I don't know what the go is there. It's just with reds, I've got this. I call in a lot more younger stags roaring than what I do older stags.
Mm.
But I'd rather hind call. Hind calls me go to with everything I hunt.
Definitely.
When I say with deer species, hind or doe call, I'd start there. And I normally use a roar as a locator.
Yeah.
And with a Rusa roar, it might be just in the thick cover, it might be just to get them to come in a little bit more. And, especially when it's a bit frantic, and there's a lot of shit going down. If I'm in there and I roar real close, it's sort of in the thick cover where that stag's there and I'm having no more luck. That's my last resort. I'll try and, I'll go to that. And I think I had a stag turn away and go away from Harry a couple of years ago, and it was one of the first times I let out a roar and I turned him on a string and got him coming back past Harry. But it was like it takes a bit to get a roar out of me in front of people. Not the best at it. I don't claim to be real good at it, but it just at the time it just came from where it had to come from, and got the job done.
So I actually found that exact same thing with the reds this year. Start on the hinds, didn't work. Tried to do a few fawn calls or whatever, wouldn't work. Gave the few roars, and that's when they would start coming. They'll start moving towards me, and they'd fire up about it. In regards to actually using a locator call, like you said before, using a locator roar in the morning, say for instance, you'll go out still in the dark, give one roar, see what pipes up, and then you pretty much chasing it out from there. Yeah.
You sort of give you the area where you need to go, and like if you know the area, you will think, right, well, I've got to go around here. The thermals will be doing this, or the wind's doing this, or he might be going there. It might be not so much in the mornings. I'll be on the move, so I'd hear where they're roaring and then see where their next roar is, and that'll tell you. That might give you a direction of where they're going and where you might need to get to. So especially if it's a new block, it takes a little bit to work shit out. Most times it's not just a weekend or 2 weekends to work it out. It's a number of trips, and the problem is with that number of trips, the rut is only so long, so you've got a limited time to try and get it all worked out in one go, and then you think you've got it worked out this year, and then the next year the season's totally different, or it's drier or it's wetter, and or they've got a different crop in, or and things change, but you've just got to adapt a little bit to that, and that's what you dealt with. So you just got to deal with it and work out a strategy and find out what's working for you, or find out a new area, or you just got to keep going. You never stop learning. It's never the same year after year, but you just after a while you'll have a few more tricks up your sleeve, and you just got to stay positive and keep moving and keep listening and keep having a go. And sooner or later they're going to make a mistake, and you've got to be good enough to do everything right, and then hopefully you might have something on the ground. That's how it generally works. They've got to make a mistake, and you've got to be good enough to compensate on that mistake and play your part and put the arrow where you need to be, where it needs to be.
It's funny. It almost feels like the times when it goes right, you're like, oh, that was easy. But it's like you forget about all the other times very quickly when it just falls into place. About how long you've actually been working your absolute ass off to make it happen.
Yeah. That's what it's like. It's just it does sometimes things fall in your lap, and it doesn't always happen that way. But you've got to you take it when it comes, because there's plenty of other times where you tried 20 different things or you've tried 20 different times and it just hasn't worked out, and then all of a sudden they slip up, or you do everything right and they do something wrong, and then next minute there's a deer on the ground in front of you and it's all good, And it's crazy, like the bow hunting. It's the highs are so high, and the lows are as fucking low as you can get. Like, like they're terrible, and everyone thinks like guiding hunters is a dream job. Or fucking, you nearly need to be a counsellor sometimes. That's what it feels like. You sort of
have a counsellor on speed dial.
Because it's you're not dealt with the same. It's, you know what I mean? Like through the week, it is just fucking. Can be a roller coaster ride at times, but it's like that's what they make alcohol for, and tables and that. Like it's just, it's sometimes it just, we all make mistakes. People got to understand. At the end of the day, we're only human, and we're trying to. These animals, all they do is
try to live.
They try to live, and them trying to live is eating. It's food, and they've got to reproduce, and they've got to shelter somewhere. So it's pretty simple. They're not talking about what they're doing on the weekend, what sport they play, what the kids have been doing, how's everything else going. It's they've only got a few things going on in their heads.
Yeah,
and the main thing is survival, and that's keeping a lookout, making sure there's no camo clad Javers walking through the bush with pointy,
trying to get them.
Yeah.
One thing I often find myself saying to myself, like remind myself of, is like, hold up, you've just spent months thinking about this trip. Like you've worked your ass off to get to this point. Don't let anything just get in the way of it. Like you can't let any small thing slip in and be the thing that pisses you off so much that you lose your shit. Like you literally waited 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. You've planned this out for the last year. Like don't let anything stop you from going out and giving it every shot that you can.
Yeah, no, give it your best shot, but also don't be in a rush to, like I said, and this is the hardest thing is because you have been looking for it for so long, it's amazing how many people get in a situation and they can't wait to get the shot away and get it over and done with. Like, it's like instead of just breathing a little bit, taking it in, thinking how good is this, like this is just soaking it all up. Like sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes if the wind's shitty, you can't fuck around. If you get a chance, you take it when you can. But there's other times when it's like you work out where there's times you can make it happen. There's going to be times when you just can't make it happen. It doesn't feel right. The wind's not right. I haven't got enough cover. There's too many eyes. You've got to work out, right, maybe I'm just better off sitting back and waiting here and watching and just see what happens. Like, you learn a lot. Sometimes when you get pinned down, sometimes the noises you hear, the sights you see, it's unreal. Like it's all part of learning. It's all part of just, taking it in and hopefully it stays in. And you think about what happened. You pick up on a few little things here and there. And, next year, next stalk, fuck, I wonder if they're going to do the same thing. They might do. I've seen them do that before. It's, next thing, it becomes a little bit more second nature. The more time you spend out there, it's the more, comfortable you get with being in those uncomfortable situations or dealing with the heat, dealing with the cold, dealing with the wind, knowing what to do, dealing with the wet weather. And then thinking, well, righto, those animals doing that. This is what I'm doing. It's, you just got to, you got to play it all. It all plays a role, and you've got to think about stuff in the past, and you just got to make it easier on yourself and embrace that moment, and embrace what's in front of you, and take it as it comes.
Definitely. How many people do you reckon you've guided?
What, a year or this year? Or?
No, just in general. Thousands?
Oh no, it wouldn't be thousands, mate. No, but it's like every year. It's probably like So I don't know. Me and Matty worked out. What was it when COVID finished? We put 70 through up where he was, or a bit more, and I put 40. I had 40 something through where I was, and that was like I said, and like this year already, like I've done 12 in the pre-rut courses. But normally by now I've had Rusa, chital hunters all up until now, you know what I mean? And I haven't done anything like that. Like I'm back on the tools, mate. Thanks for reminding me there. Yeah, so you know, I'll go to Matty's this year, and we'll do 600 a week for probably 10 weeks. So we'll probably put through another 60 up there, you know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and then but it's you know, it's got guiding's a hard, it's a pretty hard, like, loose term. Like I'd rather call it just I hunt with people a fair bit. Like
Definitely.
Because you're just sort of helping out. That's all you're doing. You're gaining access for them. You're not shooting the animal for them, but it's all I'm doing is gaining access, and I am helping a few out, making sure, I suppose, fast tracking them here and there. You know, some people have got limited time, limited access, and you know, if I can help them out that way, it's great. You know,
I mean,
and a lot. You go.
I was going to say, what you said before was that you actually get a lot of repeat hunters. This is before we started recording. So you get a lot of repeat hunters, like seeing them come back year after year, or say it's even just a few months later, going from one course to the next course, for instance.
Yeah.
Like you would notice how fast they can quickly improve, right?
Oh, mate, I've had, there's a number of blokes that, especially the last 4 or 5 years, I hunt with them once or twice a year. And if you could see where they were 5 years ago to where they are now, fuck, it puts a smile on my face. Like, as in, not just shooting wise is a big thing. Like, it's hard to get into people's heads that the end game, what we do, the end game is to put an arrow through a critter in the right spot, right? But that's a thing you need to actually have nutted out before you even go out there to try and do this.
Exactly.
You need to be able to shoot right. And you need to be able to shoot right. You need to have and to be able to shoot right, you got to get, if you get your gear set up right, you'll see a progression from when you first start shooting to where you'll end up. You'll just get better and better, and you get to a stage where every time you pull your bow back and you shoot at something, 95 times out of 100, you're going to kill something.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it's going to get to. That's where you should be aiming to do, right?
Definitely, yeah.
But, you know, but there's people out there that have been, I come across them and they've been hunting for 12 years, 15 years, and their arrows still fly. But they don't understand that just with a few tweaks to get the arrows shooting a bit better, they can, instead of grouping like 100 or 120 mil, that they're thinking that's pretty good, but the arrows are flying pretty erratic.
Yeah.
You know, they can be grouping like 50 mil and arrows flying like darts, and the arrows are going to come out where you expect them to come out. They're going to hit where you expect them to hit.
Yeah.
The problem with erratic arrow flight is you might land it in the zone, but it's not going to continue on it's not traveling straight. Like if it hits and that arrow's at an angle, it's going to continue on that path at an angle. Yeah. You know, it's like shooting in a bad crosswind. It's terrible arrow flight, and you might hit them where you want, but
you lose so much penetration.
Yeah, you lose penne, you lose energy, and it doesn't come out where you want it to. You know?
Yeah.
But in saying that too, like I've seen people progress with the gear they've got and how they shoot, and it just be more. 5 years ago, I might think, righto, we're going to get you near to 20. Just wait. Righto, there's a shot coming up. Right, when you're ready, it's there. The shot's there, and that's how I talk to them. You know, and then now it's like you're 80 yards away. Righto, you happy with it? Yeah, I'm happy with him. On your way, and you know, the confidence is there. You know, fuck, if he gets in there, that deer's in trouble. If he gets in there and the wind stayed true, that deer's in trouble. You don't have to be, you know, over the shot. Not that I had to be, but I always give blokes an option, or the hunters an option, whether or not they want me there or not. You know, it's sort of. And I hunted with one bloke last year, and he's hunted for the last 20 years. And I said, mate, you go. He said, I don't mind. He said, you calm me down when you talk to me. Yeah. He said, actually, it calms me down. And then I've had other blokes saying, well, you feel, this happened years and years ago, probably 20 years ago up in the Cape. I had one bloke say I felt like I was pressuring him, and I thought, fuck, yeah, that's the first time I've heard that, you know what I mean? Because it's sort of like all I was trying to make him do was get closer.
Yeah.
Because he's at a stalemate. He was 40 yards away from a boar that was feeding with its head down covered, and he'd run out of cover, and he thought he couldn't go any further. And I thought, well, mate, just go, while his head's down, just stay in the shadows and, just keep getting closer. But anyway, at the end of the day, I don't want to make anyone feel pressured. They're there to enjoy the hunt. I just want them to have a good hunt and enjoy the hunt,
Definitely. Yeah. I find like that's been some of the best learnings for me is literally going Indian file, walking along with a hunter and just figuring out how they walk, what they do, where they stop, when they don't stop. Just like understanding how they hunt. And it's very different. It's not very different, but you will see the little nuances and changes from hunter to hunter. And I think you can learn from all of them, right? Like it's always been fascinating for me.
Yeah, I pick up from, like I said, I pick up from a stack of different hunters that I think, oh, fuck, it's pretty cool how he's done that, and then I see other blokes do stuff and you, oof, how did you get away with that? Yeah. But it's we all see things different, and sitting back watching stuff is like a lot different actually being the one in the shoes, like trying to take every step and making sure it's quiet and try and keep an eye on everything in front of you. And when you're the one with that bow in your hand and the arrow knocked and it's game on, it's a totally different feeling to sit back 100 yards away with a video camera or looking through a pair of binos. It looks pretty easy. You think, fucking, why aren't you shooting? Why aren't you shooting him? And then it looks like they're right on top of them, but they never are. There must be a reason. And I just want people to make sure if they're going to shoot when you're ready to shoot, like don't, just make sure it's right. Like just if there's a bit of doubt, you're better off not shooting. I talked to one bloke the other day about it, and he was down in the dumps because they called a red deer in, and he thought the world was ending because he didn't get to shoot it. And I thought, it just didn't offer him the shot, or he didn't feel right. So I'd rather him not shoot it than fling an arrow in haste or hoping to hit it. Like he could have gut shot it, and then he would have felt 100 times worse.
Yeah, exactly.
1,000 times worth. You know what I mean? So it's just maybe a missed opportunity. But unless we make mistakes, we don't learn. I think you learn more from the mistakes you make. You sort of, And I'm not saying he made a mistake, but he said, oh, maybe I should have drawn back earlier. And I thought, well, what angle? Imagine it was the wrong angle and stopped out at there, and you felt as though you had to shoot it because it was stopped. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're a minute in and you're shaking like a leaf. And you think, fuck, I don't know if I can hold this back anymore, and you try and squeeze off a shot. I said, none of that went through your mind. So
no, exactly.
To me, that's, you're a better bloke for not shooting something sometimes, I reckon, than having a go. It's a two, people can say, well, you don't know unless you have a go, but you got to feel right. I reckon it's got to feel right. If it doesn't feel right, don't shoot. Simple as that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we owe it to the animal as well, right? If we're going to go out and put all this time and effort into understanding them and getting to know their patterns and practices, like we may as well make sure that we're getting the job done properly. And it's not to say that I'm a saint, like I've definitely made my fuck ups, but at the same time, I've learnt from those as well. And I had a situation this year with a fallow deer. Randy called one in for me, and it just at no time did I have a good shot on the vitals, and I didn't take the shot. And I did question it. I was like, oh, what if? But then now I'm happy as Larry that I didn't take that shot, because I know it would have just not ended well.
Yeah, and the thing is, the deer's still there. You know what I mean? He's not laying in a bush somewhere that you can't find him. That's the hardest thing for us over here. Like to leave an animal overnight is, especially up there on the Rusa and Chital. I found it was hard because there's so many dogs moving through that area. Like they don't miss a trick. You get a pack of dogs moving through, they smell blood or smell something injured, or whatever. They're straight on it. Yeah. Shit's very rarely in the same spot the next day. You got to be lucky for it to, the next morning to have nothing chewed on it or intact. So, but I still think you're better off, being able to walk away and not shoot. It takes a lot for someone not to do that, but to me, it's a measure of discipline, knowing you can do it, not feel obligated to. Because, like I said, the thing is that if you don't get it that day, well, maybe you might get it the next day.
Yeah.
If you don't get it the next day, it may be the day. If you don't get it, well, some other hunter might be good, might be lucky enough to get it, and they'll be stoked too. So, and you'd be happy for them. Like, you know, that's the way I look at it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's a good outlook. It really is. Well, mate, is there anything else that we should have said about the Rusa that we didn't?
No, like I said, I don't know, mate. There's probably plenty that I haven't touched on, but I only know how I hunted him at that sort of areas, and it might be a little bit different over here on the coast and on the swamps and in the tea tree, and you know, on the coast. And that, the biggest thing is now's a good time. May's a good time to hunt him if you can. Mm-hmm. June's a good time because it's sort of ramping up a bit. July can be full swing and pretty active and good to hunt them as well, and you shouldn't. It's not all over come August, you know. It could still be the odd one roaring and that in August over and around here. It's just it's putting the time in and putting the time in the right areas, and you're in with a shot, you know. Yeah,
definitely. Well, mate, I really appreciate your time. I mean, getting to talk to you for 2 hours about hunting is incredible. Like, I mean, obviously you've got so much practice and time behind what you've done, and yeah, I guess, is there any requests, not requests, but is there any last things that you want to leave the audiences with in general?
Not really, mate. It's just, like I said, if you're going to go and hunt Rusa, just do what I talked about then. Like, just get out there and have a go and work out, look for that sign, hunt where the sign is, and ticker, top of the ticker. That's all. That's where you aim, mate.
Definitely. I'd actually say go across and watch, jump on Brad's page if you're not already there, because he does put up some really cool and insightful stuff, like often about shot placement, about watching animals move and react to shots, just general good content for us bow hunters. So, yeah, thanks for all you do, Brad, and I appreciate your time, man.
No, that's not a worries, mate. That's how instead of me, mate, if I can put out stuff and we can all learn from a few things that I show here and there and a bit of, half-handy footage. That's what I like watching, and if someone can take something away from it, well, that's good.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I'll be watching, I mean, even just this conversation in general, just listening to it again, I was like, or some of the things you say, I'm like, oh, of course, like that makes so much sense. Like, it's just funny once you play it out a few times or you see it happen a few times, you're like, now it's starting to all click.
Yeah, well, that's what, it's just a time thing, mate. And like I said, I talked to someone the other day, they asked me, what's the best bit of kit you got? And I've actually said my camera, like if I haven't had my camera so I could replace stuff, look back over stuff. And to me, I've learnt as much watching back over footage as what I've done out in the field. Like, to me, it's sort of helped put in my head where I need to put that arrow, what that animals do. And a lot of times now I was watching, learn the behaviour of animals. Like, that's a big thing. If I can read their body language and understand what they're going to do and what they may be thinking, well, it gives you that, try and keep that 2 steps ahead, you know.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is just, honestly, get out there and enjoy the hunt. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the hunt you're having. Like, it's not easy. You don't want it to be easy. That's why you're shooting a bow. If you want it to be easy, don't shoot a bow. That's what exactly. I can say. You know. But I hope everyone gets, if anyone chasing Rusa, this rut, best of luck to you.
Mate, thank you. I think we've set a lot of people up for a lot more success this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, like I said, that success only comes if you can get out there and have a go, And that's what you got to do, and look for the sign and spend the time in the right areas, and hopefully she'll happen.
Amazing. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate your time, mate.
No, good on you, Matty.
That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bow Hunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.